Good morning. As we proceed to give you what you need, Nikki, good morning to you. Courtney, good morning to you. Appreciate you all being here. First thing, as we get started, Rumble, good morning. We are in YouTube. Good morning. We're here. X, good morning. LinkedIn is good. Good morning. We are waiting on Facebook to actually start. I don't know what the hell is happening on Facebook. Every week is one of these apps that is somehow, some way giving a little bit of a hiccup. Instagram, good morning over there. TikTok, good morning over here. Marky Man, good morning to you. Topic here today is supporting Donald Trump against your self-interest, regardless of who you are. Are you voting against your self-interest or not voting? The election's already over. But are you supporting against your self-interest if you support Donald Trump if you are a woman? Are you going against your self-interest if you are a working class or middle class person? Are you going against your self-interest if you happen to be a minority or an immigrant? These are the common, let's just call it a pejorative framing that is used by anybody who really doesn't like Donald Trump or whatever they claim he represents. And this is being used as a just as a talking point, I guess, for lack of a better term, whenever people hear or see anyone say anything positive about Trump, and they just can't stand hearing anybody say anything positive about Donald Trump. Before we get deeper into this topic, here's something that just happened I was on X this morning, and some idiot says something stupid. This person said, because some of y'all know about with the stock market issue, stock market turning down significantly last Friday, then going into Monday. Today is Thursday. That stock market was down, then some stocks went back up. And what someone posted yesterday, this account on X called Unusual Whales, what they basically do is they follow the buying choices of people in the government because, they are exempt from what they call insider trading rules. So basically things that they are allowed to do when they work there that we are not allowed to do. We would go to jail if we did it, but they can do it. So what this app does is follow what those people do, and it announces it. And if you just do what those people do, then maybe theoretically you'll be in a better position investment wise. So what happened is Marjorie Taylor Greene, who is a pretty well-known Republican, Trump supporting MAGA, was she a congressperson or a senator? I think she's a congressperson. She said that allegedly it was quoted that she said, anyone who is panicking over the tariffs are, quote, losers and failures, close quote. And then she has to disclose. So when they buy, they have to disclose. And this is why this Unusual Whales account is able to track what these people in the government are doing. And yesterday, so when I say today, I mean yesterday. No, this was the 8th. So today is the 10th. So it's 2 days ago. At 11:41 a.m. on the 8th, 2 days ago, Taylor Greene had disclosed over a dozen stock purchases, and she purchased several $1,000s of numerous stocks, and she bought when the market was deeply red. So I'm just looking at, they don't say the exact amount that she bought because the amount, there's a range. So if you buy between $1,000 and $15,000 worth of stock, you just have to mark that range. So she bought this range of stock, and the stocks that she bought, they just have the stock ticker. So some of these I know what they are, some of them I don't. So she bought some Amazon, she bought Dell, she bought Lululemon, she bought Nike, she bought, what's another one? That one I don't know. She bought Apple, there's a couple of these in here twice. So she bought a couple of them more than once. So maybe she was just going around the disclosure amount. She bought Caterpillar, and there's a few others who I don't know. But she bought looks like it's about 15 to 20 trades that she made. And again, looks like, depending on the amount, this could be tens or it could be hundreds of thousands of dollars of stocks that she bought. And what I responded to that because they said it's unusual. They said it's unusual that she bought a bunch of stocks when the market was deeply red. And I said, no, that's not unusual at all. That's normal. When there's blood in the streets, buy. I mean, anybody who knows anything about the market, that's exactly what you do. When the prices go down, then you buy stuff. It's kind of like if your favorite store has a bunch of products on sale, then you go buy a bunch of the products. Why? Because you like the products. So when it's on sale, you can save money and get the stuff that you were going to buy anyway. If Whole Foods put everything on sale. There'd be a bunch of people in Whole Foods buying stuff. There's nothing unusual about this. And I said, this is not a government secret. So if you want to see me, if y'all like the way that I communicate verbally here in these live streams, you want to see me communicate textually, things that you read, then you can follow me on X. My name on X is Dre All Day. So anyway, what this person said, this anonymous person, as usual, anonymous person, they say, well, only rich people can benefit off of this. And I responded to them by saying, you can start investing with literally $1. I told you all this yesterday. I mean, not yesterday, 2 days ago, I said this. There's a bunch of apps out there these days where you can start investing, financial investing with literally $1, literally $1. And this person said, and that will achieve nothing. Only the top percent benefits from this because they can buy up more resources. It's simple economics. That's not true. That's not simple economics. The person doesn't know what they're talking about. They said the working class will suffer under Trump. That's a fact, not an opinion. All right, that is not a fact. That is absolutely an opinion. If you say something is suffering, then you're already given an opinion by definition. But anyway, most people are not logical. And who knows if this is even a real person? This is what I said to this person. I quote tweeted them. You'll see this at the top of my feed if you were to go to X and see me right now. And I'm live on X right now, so shout out to X. I said, this mentality is the reason why nothing the government does can save most people. Most people have made a mental and emotional decision to lose, and they have the quote unquote facts to back up their decision to lose. This is why I cannot be a politician. So I literally just sent that. So since it was fresh on my mind, I wanted to share that because it actually will dovetail very well into what we're going to talk about here today, which is if you are in any way, shape, or form in support of, or you are a supporter of Donald Trump, MAGA, whatever he's doing in his administration, between him, Elon, Doge, Trump, Kash Patel, what's the other guy's name? Pete Hegseth, RFKJ, and all the other people he brought in. If you're any way supporting this, are you going against your own self-interest? Let's talk about that here today. Those of you who don't know me, my name is Dre Baldwin. Many know me as Dre All Day, former 9-year professional athlete, author of 41 books, on 4 TEDx talks. I own this company called Work on Your Game. We help professional entrepreneurs systematize and scale their businesses up from the 6 to the 7-figure level. You can learn more about that by going to the links that you see in my profile on whatever app you are watching this on. So this is often said, this whole thing, you're going against your own self-interest. I see it because I'm a Black American. I see it coming from other Black and brown people. They'll say it to me if I say anything even neutral about Donald Trump. This has been going on 10 years. You say anything even neutral about Donald Trump, the people who staunchly hate him and are strongly against him, and there's lots of them, they will come out of the woodwork and tell you that you are basically shooting yourself in the foot by having anything positive to say, or you even would go as far as to think something positive or even neutral about Donald Trump. And by the way, I'm going to take questions and comments at the end. So these people claim that you're not supporting or you're not voting for your own self-interest if you do anything that has anything positive to do with Donald Trump, because allegedly Donald Trump, the framing is, excuse me, anything Donald Trump does, says, or thinks must be going against the choices or the needs or the desires of Black and brown people in the United States of America. That is nonsense. One reason why we know is nonsense. And again, for it to be nonsense, all we got to do is just come up with one strong point that knocks it down. I can come up with a lot if I have more time to think about it, but I'll give you one right here. In the United States of America, usually when there's a presidential election, at least as long as I've been alive, you pretty much have a binary choice. You got the Democrat, you got the Republican. Yes, there are independents who run. None of them ever get anywhere near enough votes for it to be a serious consideration. Yes, you can write somebody in on the ballot. You can technically write yourself in on the ballot if you want to. You're not going to win because you're not going to get enough votes. For the most part, we have a binary choice, the Democrat or the Republican. When we look at the last 3 elections between Trump against Hillary, Trump against Biden, Trump against Kamala. But let's just talk about 2024. Trump against Kamala. I have been on the record saying these are the only 2 options we got, which they actually were, who's the better option? As a Black and brown person, the better option was Trump. He was the better option between him and Kamala Harris. Kamala Harris, several things about her. Number one, she hadn't gone through the fire to actually get the nomination. We all know this to be true. She didn't go through the fire. She did not have to beat out a bunch of combatants who also wanted the nomination. And I believe, I've said this many times, I'll say it again here today, had she had to go through the gauntlet and actually battle with a bunch of other people who wanted that nomination, even on short notice like they had when Biden got removed and the DNC was coming up in a handful of weeks, had they just had a primary just in that short period of time, I do not believe she would have won. So on that point alone, I don't think she was a strong candidate. And therefore, I would rather take the other one because she didn't have to beat anybody to get to where she was at. She had to beat anyone to become the nominee. And if she tried, I think she would lose. And that's why I think it's going to happen. If she tries in 2028, she's going to lose. And we already know she tried it in 2020 and she lost. And in 2024, they put her in the position. And guess what happened? She lost. All right. So if you're saying, as a black and brown person, choosing Trump or thinking that Trump's the better option, as I just said, makes you going against your self-interest, again, how? Based on what? Just because your opinion is that you like Kamala. Everyone's free to have that opinion. I'm sure we got some Kamala supporters who are here in this room, or maybe you're just anti-Trump, so you support anybody who goes against Trump, because I doubt Kamala had that many supporters. But let's just say you're an anti-Trump person and you believe going with Trump is the bad decision. That is completely fine. But to frame it as if somebody else is going against their own self-interest doesn't quite make any sense, because this is an appeal to emotion logical fallacy. The logical fallacy called the appeal to emotion, which is when you tell someone, you try to make a logical point, and when you fail to make your logical point, you try to appeal to a person's emotions to get them to accept something that logically does not add up and logically does not make sense. Now, what does not logically make sense? It doesn't logically make sense for me to say to you, you making a certain decision goes against your own self-interest, unless I know you and I know what your self-interests are, which must be stated by you. So if I don't know what your self-interests are, I can't tell you that you doing something is good for you, nor can I tell you that it's bad for you, because I don't know enough about you. I don't have enough information. And this is one of the things that I tell people that I do as a coach and as a consultant. The first thing that I do when someone comes to me asking for any type of assistance or help or guidance, et cetera, I do not just start spouting information and giving them my knowledge. Even though I think I have a lot of information, I have a lot of knowledge and insight, I don't start by giving you information. The first thing I'm going to do is ask you a whole bunch of questions. I'm going to ask a whole bunch of questions. Now, the question is, why do I do that? And this is something that any of you can use as free game that I'll give you. Any of you who's in any form of sales, any form of persuasion, influence, those are all sales. Is the reason I ask a bunch of questions is because I need to gather more information. I'm not qualified to give you help until I know exactly what I'm working with. If I don't know what your needs are, your desires are, or exactly what the problem is, and the problem often is not the thing that someone comes to me and says that they have. I'll give you an example of that in a moment. I'm not qualified to give you advice until I know exactly what the situation is. And the only way I know what the situation is I have to ask a bunch of questions. Any of you have ever watched a police show or a detective show or one of those shows where the cops are interrogating somebody? They have them in a little room sitting at the table and they're talking to them. Or any of you ever actually been accosted by a police officer in question? What do the cops do? The cops don't just start telling you stuff. They don't tell you anything. What do the cops do? They just ask you a whole bunch of questions. They just keep asking you questions. Question after question after question after question after question. Why? Because they're trying to gather information. Now, to be clear, you should not speak to a police officer. A police officer starts asking you questions. Don't answer any questions. Let them know, hey, officer, I am invoking my Fifth Amendment privilege to not say anything. I have a right to remain silent. So if I'm under arrest, arrest me. If I'm not under arrest, then I'm going to be on my way, officer. Thank you. You should not start answering questions of a police officer without the presence of a lawyer, because a cop will manipulate you into something that you probably don't want to get into. But the point is, I want you to get the bigger point, that cops do this very thing, because that's their very job, is to gather information. And you cannot gather information while speaking. You gather information while listening. So you have to ask questions. I'm saying that to say, and actually, before I get to that, let me give you the example that I told you I would give. Back in the day when I used to make basketball content, I would get a lot of athletes coming to me, and they would come to me asking for help. They would say, well, can you help me with my game? Can you help me with this? Can you help me make the team, et cetera, et cetera? And there would be this like blanket question like that of a person who I never met and I don't even know. And the first thing I would do is get more information. If I was going to engage them, the first thing I would do is ask them a bunch of questions. Well, who are you? Where do you play? What level are you at? How often do you practice? What happened the last time you tried to do that thing and you failed? What do you think you need to work on? I would ask all those questions. Once I got all that information, the answer would be really obvious, almost so obvious to the point that the person can answer their own question without me giving them any information. A good salesperson is really good at doing this. That's what a good salesperson does. That's what a good consultant does. That's what a good lawyer does. That's what a good therapist does. They ask a bunch of questions. They let you do all the talking, and you actually end up, quote unquote, solving your own problem. You didn't really solve your own problem because you didn't know the quality of questions to ask, because you couldn't ask yourself the same questions that your therapist or your coach could have asked. So they helped you, but all they did was use what we call the Socratic method, which is asking a bunch of questions. And if you ask enough questions, then people often come to their own conclusions. The value that you bring to the table is that you're providing the questions. The challenge that a lot of people have in the world, and this is one of the reasons that I trash the educational system in the United States, is that many of us / you all get conditioned to believe that in order to advance, you have to have all the answers. But that's actually not true. That's the opposite of what you need to advance in life and to get better and to help yourself and help others. What you need to get good at is not having the answers, but asking the right questions. When you ask the right questions, then you open yourself up to insights and breakthroughs and solutions to problems. But when you're trying to come up with answers, the problem with coming up with answers is that you can only answer the question that is being asked. So if you're asking a poor question, then it doesn't matter if you get the answer right. That's the problem. And the problem with the educational system that we have here in America is that it rewards people who have the answers. It doesn't reward you for asking questions. It rewards the people who have all the answers. But what are the answers? The answers are the answers that have already been decided through your textbooks and through your teachers. Whoever does the best job of proving that they know those answers, they move up, they get straight A's, they become valedictorians, then they go get good jobs, basically doing the same thing they were doing in school for the next 40 or 50 years. Those of you who don't go along with that program, you become the average and below average students. You get kicked out of school. Maybe you don't even graduate at all. And you get a stigma on you that something's wrong with you because you didn't follow the system the proper way. I'm saying all of that as part of the frame of what I'm talking about here is that this logical fallacy of you are going against your own self-interest when you're talking to a random person on the internet. You don't even know this person. How do you know what their self-interest is? You don't know. So again, this is an emotional plea that people are making. They're trying to control your emotions because they have no logic to offer the conversation. Most people don't even understand how to logically formulate an argument, period, on anything, even something that they strongly believe. They don't know how to word it in such a way that it can be influential and persuasive to other people. And this is the reason why we have this breakdown in discourse in the world on top of the fact that none of us can even agree on a basic set of facts these days. And when we can't agree on facts, then we are headed towards more chaos and disorder than what we already have. Next point is this. You cannot tell another person what their self-interest is, as I already explained, unless you know it. And you're saying this to somebody just because you can see some surface trait about them. This doesn't really add up. Secondly, or thirdly, or fourthly, or fifthly, whatever number I'm on here. Anyone's personal goals or self-interest should not be fueled, defended, or thought out or defended or understood by what the United States government and or its elected officials are doing. Let me say that again. Let me restate it in a more clear way. Your self-interest, whatever they are, any of you listening to me right now, I don't care who you voted for or if you voted at all, your self-interest should not be based on what the government is doing, unless you work in the government or your significant other works in the government. Then I guess you could base it on the government, because if your husband wins his election, then certain things are going to happen. If he loses, then certain things happen. So if you or your spouse works in the government, then what happens in the government should fuel your self-interest. But anything short of that, if you are merely a voter and or observer and or a person with opinion, like myself and like most of you are, what the government does has nothing to do with my self-interest. So to be clear, any voting decision that I make in the past, present, or future, I don't make the voting decision necessarily so much based on, or what am I trying to do in life, or I'm trying to make some more money, or I'm trying to start a family, or I'm trying to do this and that. So that means I'm going to vote for this person or that person, or what is that going to do for me? And my son just brought me some slime. It looks like a rock, right? But it's malleable, some slime, and a container to put it in. So he has to come back and get this. Anyway, my decisions are not based on what the government is doing. It's cool, whatever the government is doing, but I really don't give a damn what the government does. I don't give a damn who wins the election. I really don't give a damn who the president is. I really don't give a damn what people in Congress are saying, or if someone wants to give a speech for 25 hours on the Senate floor. I will use these things. I will use them as I will leverage them for material from my own personal self-interest, but I really don't care who it is or who did it. If it wasn't yesterday, I talked about Cory Booker and his 25 hours of nonsense. Had it not been Cory Booker, I would have just used whoever did do it. Had it been a Republican, I would have used that. If Trump wasn't president, I'd be talking about Kamala. Whatever the situation is, I'll use it to my advantage, but I really don't give a damn. I have no vested interest in who's who in these positions. Why? Because the United States government, I've said this many times, they are very inefficient in getting things done. They are wholly ineffective in changing the lives of an individual person. And for the most part, the people who work in the government are there to serve themselves, even though ostensibly they're there to serve you. They're not serving you. They're helping themselves. People who work in the government, and the reason why this is because people who work in the government, this was not supposed to be a full-time job. It's supposed to be a volunteer position. The same way that you would coach your daughter's high school cheerleading team on the weekends. That's what, or maybe every Tuesday and Thursday and Saturday. That's what the government was supposed to be. You are volunteering your time as a concerned citizen to help everybody else out. So you volunteered that you'll show up every quarter or something like that. Same way that people at a board of directors will show up to make decisions about things. That's how you would do it. And you did it for that reason, to give back. Now, what happened is the government became a full-time job. So now we don't know. We don't know if your favorite politician is there to serve themselves or if they're there to serve you, regardless of what they say. Why? Because there's a potential conflict of interest. The conflict of interest is I have a full-time job working in the government. Therefore, I may do things that allow me to keep my full-time job as opposed to things that might cost me this full-time job, even though it's serving the people that I'm supposed to be serving. As soon as you... Yes, it's right here. Here, take this too. Here's the container. Okay, close the door when you leave. Thank you. All right, so this potential conflict of interest puts a question in all of our minds. Are these people actually helping us or are they helping themselves? And because the question, just the fact that the question exists is the reason why I don't put too much stock in what the government is doing. Again, I will use what the government is doing, but I'm not going to put too much stock in what the government is doing just because of this alone. So Marjorie Taylor Greene, she bought a whole bunch of stock the other day, is within the confines of the rules. Within the rules, she did what she is allowed to do. Now, do I think it is quote unquote fair? I don't even like using that word fair. But let's just use that. Do I think it's fair that Marjorie Taylor Greene gets to buy stock because she probably has insider information that the rest of us, even if we had it, A, we don't have it, and B, even if we did have it, if we used it the same way that she used it, we would go to jail. But if she uses it, she doesn't go to jail. Do I think that's okay? That's an interesting question. Let me ask the audience. What do y'all think? Do y'all think yes or no? Is that okay? Is that okay? She bought like 20 stocks, Jesse, on TikTok. It's posted on X yesterday. She bought like 20 stocks. She had to disclose, and anywhere between $1,000 and $15,000 worth of stock. And there's about 20 different stock buys that she did. Do y'all think that's okay or not? Yes or no? So I don't know. It's an interesting thing. I don't know if I even want to put myself into a yes or no. Most of you are saying no. And Jesse said I would just copy their trades. Well, there's a whole account on X that does exactly that, Jesse. That's the point. That's the reason why I brought it up. There's an account on X called Unusual Whales. All it does is track what politicians do in terms of stock buying. And then they just tell you, and then they say, if you just do that, then you'll make money, because that's exactly what they're doing. What I believe, my answer to this is the following, is that if this is within the confines of the rules and you are able to play the rules in such a way that you get an advantage that other people don't have, then that's part of the game. That's what I would call it. I don't really like playing with the word fair or is this right. I don't really like playing those games because it becomes a judgment call, and it really doesn't matter. Does it really matter what I think about it? Not really, because those are the rules. The rules say that you can insider trade when you work in the government, and you work in the government. Guess what? If all of us worked in the government, guess what we would be doing? Insider trading. We'd be doing the same thing. If I was in Marjorie Taylor Greene's position, I will find out where she's getting her information and how she's able to insider trade and basically make money on stocks really easily. I would do the exact same damn thing that she's doing. Why? Because those are the rules. And as soon as I get out, I can't insider trade anymore. So let me ask you a question. If you are working in the government, speaking of what I just said, so let's say she's a congressperson, right? I don't believe she's a senator. I believe she's a congressperson. So MTJ, she is a congressperson. She has a full-time job working in Congress. And because of her position in Congress, she is exempt from insider trading rules. Do you think that she may at times make decisions that are allegedly about the people, but she'll make a decision that will help her keep her career intact just so she can keep doing that insider trading? Because I guarantee you she makes a lot more money off her stock trading than she makes from her stated salary being in Congress. Yes or no? Do you think she may at sometimes do things that will help her career more than that will help the people, simply because doing things to keep her in that job allows her to make a lot more money through those stocks than she can make through her salary? Lone Wolf said it's illegal to do insider trading in the government. No, it's not. It's not illegal to do insider trading in the government, but let's pull up ChatGPT and get the exact language on this. What are the rules and laws when it comes to insider trading for government officials? Well, let's make sure we get some accurate language on this. Especially for members of Congress, it's a hot topic. Here's a breakdown. So 2012, there's an act called the Stock Act, all capital letters, stock. So it governs insider trading by government officials. And it says, here's what the act is supposedly called. This is what the word stock stands for. Stop Trading on Congressional Knowledge Act. So if that's the act, then how is it? So this is what it says. It says members of Congress cannot use non-public information gained through their official positions for personal profit, i.e. buying or selling stocks. But we know they do this. So let's continue. Let's read the rest of it. It requires transparency. So if a person in the government buys a stock, they have to disclose anything over $1,000 within 45 days. That we already know. That's why MTJ had to disclose. Now, this applies to Congress, the president, the vice president, any branch officials, federal judges, and staffers and aides. Now, while the law technically, here's the thing, the law technically makes insider trading illegal for government officials, enforcement has been criticized as weak. Violators may face fines or ethics investigation, but criminal prosecutions are rare. Then there's a loophole. Many officials trade in sectors they oversee, raising conflict of interest concerns. Critics say the act needs stronger enforcement or that officials should be banned from owning stocks altogether. The proposed reform is that you got to ban members from owning or trading individual stocks while in office. That's what a lot of people have been said. Or require assets to be placed in a blind trust or increase penalties and enforcement for violations. So actually, this person was right. All right, it is illegal. Okay, it is illegal and they're getting away with it. So what I originally thought is that it wasn't legal. It was why they were always doing it. But they're all doing it, even though this Stock Act got enforced in 2000 and it got put in 2012. They're still doing it. So if we say something's illegal, but then it's not being enforced, is it really illegal? I guess by the book it is. But if you're not going to jail for it and you're not being penalized for it, would you consider it to be illegal? Depends on how you want to define the term. I think something's illegal if you get caught, because then you get a penalty for breaking the law. But if you break the law and you don't get caught, did you actually break the law? That's my question. My question is, if you break the law and you don't get caught breaking the law, did you break the law? What do y'all think about that? Give me a yes or a no. This is more of a philosophical question than it is a black and white, right or wrong question. What do y'all think? My question is, if you break the law, but you don't get caught for breaking the law, did you break the law? That's my question. Yes or no? And I see a couple of yeses. Someone said Martha Stewart. Martha Stewart's with an EW. But yeah, she got caught. But she might have broke the law a bunch of times and only got penalized for that. Donald said, if a tree falls in the woods, does it make a noise? I say no. All right, this is a philosophical question. So a bunch of you are saying yes. But what if you didn't get caught? How does anybody know that you broke the law if you didn't get caught? That's the question. If nobody caught you, if you didn't get caught doing the thing, son, I'm recording. You can come in here, but you can't make too much noise as I'm recording. You want to join me?
Yeah. I'm just trying to hit mine with this.
You probably shouldn't do that. Sounds like she's making breakfast for you.
Well, I still can't hit with this.
No, you shouldn't.
How can you?
You shouldn't hit anybody with it. You can play with it, but don't hit anybody with it. Is that okay? Okay, you gonna join me or are you gonna leave? Because I'm recording. All right, I'll see you later. Okay, now back to where we were. So this insider trading thing, here's what I say about it. Now that we found out that it is technically on the books. Close the door. Okay, now that it is technically on the books illegal, but people are able to get away with it, let me ask you all a question, an ethical question. So since there's a account on X that follows what people in the government are doing in terms of their trades, and they are probably insider trading, if you were to go follow that account and just do the same things that they're doing, are you ethically upstanding by doing it? Knowing that they're insider trading, knowing that insider trading is technically illegal, but they are probably getting away with it, and you copied what they're doing, doesn't that mean you are somehow complicit? Would you keep doing it? So Carla said the tree still makes a noise. All right, so looks like we're going to have a debate here today about that. The tree makes a noise. We'll get to that when I get to the comments. So are you ethically complicit by following someone who's insider trading, knowing that insider trading is illegal? If you do the same thing, aren't you doing something illegal? What do you think? What do y'all think about that? Is that okay or is that not okay? And so I'm seeing some no's. Someone says breaking the law because the charges can be filed. But if you never have charges filed against you, did you technically break the law? I say not really. If you didn't get caught, you weren't cheating. That's the way I look at it. Ginger said, I keep thinking about doing it. I'm tired of struggling. Well, why are you thinking about it? Either do it or don't. Nikki said, the tree makes a noise around other trees. Well, then how do you define a noise? Doesn't the noise have to be registered by human ears? Tyrell said, we are not insiders. But this is what I'm saying. There's an account. So people who didn't hear me what I said, Carla said, ethically the same, legally no. So the question is, my question is, there's an app, not app, an account on social media that follows congressional members' stock trades. We learned from ChatGPT. Legally, it's illegal to do it, but they're doing it anyway because the law is not enforced. Because again, who's going to enforce the law? They're going to call the cops on each other? They're probably not going to do it. They're all doing it. Not all of them, but a lot of them are doing it. So since the app tells you exactly what Marjorie Taylor Greene is buying or Nancy Pelosi is buying, because they have to announce when they buy stuff, if you were to do the same thing, just follow what they're buying and do the same thing, aren't you complicit in this unethical behavior? Doesn't that make you unethical because you're following exactly what an unethical person is doing? It's like if somebody stole some stuff from the department store and then they come to the hood and they're selling it and you buy it and you know they probably stole it, but they didn't tell you they stole it, but you know it's probably stolen and you buy it and then you walk around wearing it. Technically, you didn't break the law because you didn't steal it. You just bought it from them and hey, you don't have to know where it came from. They didn't tell you. Are you complicit in the crime? It is an ethical question. It's not really a black and white thing. It becomes an ethical question. So I don't know the answer to this. What do y'all think? Tyrell said, "Are vigilantes ethical while breaking the law?" Again, it's a philosophical question. And Ginger said, "There's an app too." Then okay, so Ginger, if you know about this, why are you not doing it? Do you think? Amber said, "The sound doesn't need to be verified. LOL, it will make a sound." Again, well, what makes it a sound? I thought a sound needs to actually be heard. If nobody hears it, how is it a sound? I mean, it's a philosophical question. We could spend a whole hour on that one. We're not going to do that. But let me get back to where I was. Murphy said, possession of stolen property is a crime. Well, what if you didn't know it was stolen? Does that make it? If you know it's stolen, then yes. But if you don't know it's stolen, is that a crime? I'm sure I bought things from people that they stole from somewhere. When I was in high school, for example, I remember this guy, one of my classmates, he had this big Michael Jordan book. And it was like one of those coffee table Michael Jordan books. And it was written by Michael Jordan, but it wasn't like a long book, like a coffee table book with all these pictures and stuff. And he brought it to school. It was his book. And I liked the book. And he said, well, if you like it, Dre, I can get you one. I said, where'd you get it from? Because I figured I'll just go get it myself. He said, no, it's Smokers. He was from North Philly. He said, the Smokers in my hood, and we call smokers basically drug addicts. So the drug addict in my hood, they go and he didn't tell me exactly where they got it, but they stole it from somewhere. The drug addict goes and steals it. The book actually costs $50, but he could get it for like 20. So he would go buy it like for $20 from the drug addict. And that's how he got it. And he says, give me $20, Dre. I'll go get another one and I'll bring it to school. And that's how I got the book. I gave him $20. He went and got it and he brought it to school. So did I just tell on myself? Am I going to go to jail for possessing stolen property? But he told me exactly where he got it from. But that ain't my business where the guy got it from. He sold me a book for $20. I gave him $20. I got the book. I ain't got nothing to do with how he got it. If he didn't tell me that's how he got it, because he didn't actually say all that. He just said, I said, where you get it from? He said, I get it from the Smokers. That's what he said. And implicitly, I understood everything that I just told you. They probably stole it from somewhere. How and where, I don't know. But they got it. And I like the book. I want the book. They want $20. I give them $20. Boom. We just did business. I'm the buyer. He's the seller. Now, did I do something wrong? Did I break the law? When y'all going to call the cops on me for buying that Michael Jordan book 25 years ago for $20? So, hey, it becomes this ethical question. I say my overall look at something like this is I don't like moralizing. I'm not a fan of the act of moralizing. What does moralizing mean? It means looking at what other people are doing and judging them or it as right or wrong based on how I feel. I don't like playing that game. I'm just not a fan. I say if what you did is within the confines of the rules and you did it, then hey, that's what it is. If what you did is outside the confines of the rules and you got caught, then you had to pay the penalty for getting caught. If what you did is outside the confines of the rules and you didn't get caught, then the game is the game. That's the phrase that I use. If someone breaks the rule, but they don't get caught breaking the rule, the game is the game. And if you end up getting caught, then hey, you knew what you were getting into when you broke the rule in the first place. That's the decision that you make when you decide to move. And why do I say I'm not a fan of moralizing? Because all of us are human beings, and there's no such thing as a perfectly moral human being. Every human being has sinned. All of us, every single one of us, some more than others. Some you may consider to be more egregious than others, but there's a line where it comes to sin. It's either you have crossed the line or you have not crossed the line. So it's not he crossed the line more than me. It's have you crossed the line, yes or no. It's a black and white binary. So anybody who has crossed the line, I say you are unqualified to judge how badly somebody else crossed the line. You crossed it, but they crossed it more. There's no that doesn't exist. That's not a thing, at least as far as I know. So any of you who knows religion at an expert level, please tell me if I got that one wrong. Crossing the line is crossing the line. It doesn't matter how far across the line you went. If you crossed it, you crossed it. It's not like the law. In the law, there's different levels. So there's a parking ticket, and then there's capital murder. There's levels. There's a continuum of going against the grain. But when it comes to that, when it comes to moralizing, there's just a line. You either went over or you didn't. So that's what I'm saying. So let me get back to what we are actually talking about here, which is supposed to be Donald Trump. Then I'm going to get to the comments and questions, and we'll talk more about some of these other things that we've jumped into. So if you're in a situation where whoever is the president gets in the way of your personal self-interest, the mistake is not in the people who voted for that person. Even if it wasn't you, the mistake is in positioning yourself to where anything that person or government does gets in the way of your personal goals. How did you allow that to happen in the first place? That's the actual question. So we're supposed to be talking about Donald Trump and does it go against your self-interest, which is, again, if whoever is in the government, any president, politician, congressperson, senator, whatever, they do something that gets in the way of you achieving your goal and you really believe that their action got in your way. My question to you is, how did you end up in a position where wherever they did got in your way? How did you end up there? Because that shouldn't happen. It shouldn't be that whatever the government does slows you down from doing what you want to do. How did that occur? What were you doing that put you in that precarious position? I'm not saying that something the government does can't affect us because, listen, any of you who is heavily invested in the stock market, maybe you were affected when you saw the numbers go down. But as long as you didn't sell anything and you just hold on to what you have, even if it went down, eventually it's going to go back up. Why? Because historically, we know over the last 100 years, it has continually gone up. So I would bet that the next 100 years look like the last 100 years. Not guaranteed, but if I had to place a bet, I would say they probably will. So if you didn't sell anything in the last week, then you didn't actually lose any money. So I keep hearing people say this. This is another question. This becomes more of a logical question. Did you lose money when the stocks go down if you didn't sell the stock? What do y'all think about that? Because there was a lot of debate on X about this one too. So someone was saying that they lost $10 million in the stock market between Friday and Tuesday. And I said, well, if they didn't sell anything, they didn't actually lose any money. If they just hold on to their stock and it goes back up, how much money? You didn't lose anything. And when the stock goes back up, you didn't gain anything. If you didn't sell it, you didn't make any money on an accounting basis. I'm speaking on an accounting basis because the money doesn't count until you actually have the money or you give away the money. But money on paper, you can call that, you can make that part of your worth, which is why all these conversations about net worth, and you hear people talking about net worth, a lot of that is, what's the word? It's generally fictitious, it's not real money. If your net worth is $1 billion and then someone kidnaps your kid and says, okay, the ransom is $1 billion, you ain't got $1 billion. You ain't got the money. So is it real? So this becomes another one of these logical / philosophical questions. And you could actually be right on either side. Because if you say, let's say your net worth goes down, then that could affect your access to other things because your net worth has gone down, even though it's on paper. But logically, money wise, there's no money there. It's like if you buy a house for $100,000 5 years ago, and now your house is worth $300,000. So technically, you quote unquote made $200,000. Okay, show me the money. Show me the $200,000. Right, you ain't got it. You don't have $200,000. Right? And if you sold your house, okay, now you sold the house for $300K, assuming you could sell it for $300K. Okay, now you have $300,000 in cash. The problem is now you're homeless. You don't have a house. So now you got to go spend money to get another house. And it costs you the time. So this becomes a logical question the way you want to look at it. Generally, the way I look at it as you don't have a real gain or a real loss until you can hold the money in your hand and show me the money. If you can't show me the money, you didn't gain or lose anything. So I think it was, what's the guy's name from Barstool? Dave Portnoy. He was on some show, CNN, something like that the other day, talking about how he lost like $20 million and now he might not want to be a Republican anymore, or maybe he's not a Republican anyway. He's not closed off to voting Democrat in the next election because he lost $20 million. Dave, you didn't lose anything. If you didn't sell any stock, you didn't lose any money. And he said it'll probably go back up. Maybe it'll go back up. And what the hell are you talking about? I think Here's what I think about this. So Fab is saying paper gains and losses don't count. That's the way I see it, but a lot of people see it differently. What I think is that a lot of folks are going out and saying this because the same way that a lot of people were saying, well, my uncle passed away from the virus a few years ago, even though your uncle already had like 3 strokes and a heart attack, and he had high blood pressure and he was 400 pounds, and he passed away with the virus. Oh, he died from the virus. Really? Really? Your uncle died from the virus? No, your uncle died from life. Or he died from being overweight and fat and having heart attacks, but then he got the virus. All of a sudden, the virus killed him. Right. I think what a lot of people are doing is it's sensationalized. If you announce you lost a whole bunch of money from the market downturn, then you get a whole bunch of attention, and then CNN asks you to come on TV, and that can help you bolster your brand because now you get to share your opinions on TV because you claim you lost a whole bunch of money. I think there are people I think some people that might be part of their motivation to go and say that they lost money, even though anyone, I would guess, this is just my guess, anyone who has that much money invested in the stock market understands that you probably shouldn't do anything when there's a huge dip in the market like that, because if you do, then you just lost a whole bunch of money officially. So if you have a bunch of stocks and then your stock value goes down 20 million in one day and then you sell everything, well, what are you doing? Now you just guaranteed that you lost money. If you hold on to it, knowing what you know from the past, and I'm assuming anyone with that much in the market either really knows the financial market as well, or you have someone who does working on your behalf or working with you, they probably tell you this is probably not a good time to sell anything, because then you would, again, lock in your losses. How about we just wait and see what happens here? Because we all know what happened after Friday and Monday. The market started going back up, right? So let's see where the market is at now, because I haven't looked at the overall market since earlier this week when all of us were talking about this. So the Dow, so just today, the Dow is up 7%. I don't even like looking day by day because, again, who buys a stock and sells it the next day? If you're not a day trader, nobody's doing this. So anyway, looking at the market here, let me see if I can get a closer look. If we just zoom out to a month, actually 5 days might be good. April 7th was, what's the day? This is not even 5 days. So a month. So the market was going along. I'm looking at the Dow Jones Industrial Average. So it was at around 42,000. What day was this? Around late March, it was around 42,000. Then when Trump made his announcement, which was last Friday, what day was last Friday? Today is the 10th. Last Friday was April 4th. So on April 4th, 2, 3, 4. So April 4th, this is when Trump made his announcements. The market dipped from, it was at around, it was around 42,000. Trump makes his announcement on April 4th, and it goes down to about 37,000. The lowest it was at was about 37,000. 37,000. Then by, what day is this? By the 8th, which was 2 days ago, it was up to about 39. Today, right now, is at about 40. So right now it's at 40,608. So it's not that far off of where it was when it was going along normal. Going along normal, it was around 40, in between 40 and 42. It was that steady all, let's go year to date. Year to date, the Dow has been around anywhere from 40 to 45 all year. Trump makes his announcement, it dips down to 37. Now it's back up to 40. And all of that panic, all of that noise, again, this is what social media does. It gets everybody all excited about what's happening today. 24 hours later, the very thing everybody was all excited about yesterday ain't happening anymore. They don't even tell you that part. They don't tell you that we got you excited for nothing. They only get you all excited about the thing that happened. And since most people only think short term, they don't even know the market is going right back up now. It's Thursday. That was last Friday. 6 days ago, everyone was panicking. All this money they were losing, allegedly losing. Now the market is right back up 6 days later. You don't get $20 million in the stock market in 6 days. You didn't get 20 million in 6 days. You don't get 20 million out in 6 days. So anyway, this is all theater. I told you all this is all political theater. Even the people who are not in politics going on TV talking about it, they are part of the political theater. I'm part of the political theater, but I'm trying to give you all the logic of it. I'm not trying to give you the sensationalism of it, because if I wanted to be sensational, I could be. So the government folks, nothing they do should get in the way of you doing what you want to do. You shouldn't put yourself in a position to where it matters. Even if it does affect you, it shouldn't be in the way of the movements you're going to make, because the government is not the ultimate arbiter of your outcomes. You are. Some say to Trump, only wants to work with straight white men. All right, people have been saying about Trump ever since he came in. Actually, they've been saying about the whole Republican Party for probably since longer than I've been alive. The Republican Party is only for straight white men. If you're not a straight white man, then the Republican Party wants nothing to do with you. Only rich white men, even. And listen, I don't give a damn who Donald Trump wants to work with. I am not a white man, so I clearly am not in the group. I don't care who he wants to work with. I really don't. All I care about is what I'm going to do and where it's going to take me. And if someone asks me my opinion, what do I think about the options, then I'm just going to take the option that is better between Kamala and Trump. Trump was a better option. And if you ask me today, you asked me yesterday, you asked me tomorrow, who was the better option between those two candidates? The better candidate was Trump. And the rest of America generally agreed. Even if you didn't vote for Trump, you still agreed because the outcome was Trump. And racially insensitive remarks and alleged policies like the removal of DEI initiatives and being against affirmative action, these are things that people try to cite. They say, well, Trump has this history of racism. And I'm sure there are people in the comments right now. When I get to the comments, we'll address them, who say Trump has this history of racism. I'll address half of it right now. So what is his history of racism? So we know that he and his dad got sued, or at least his dad, maybe it was both of them. They got sued for racial discrimination with their apartment buildings back in the day. We know that happened. And I think that suit got settled, or maybe even lost the suit. And we also know that Trump has made some, I don't know what remarks he made that were racially insensitive. If there is one, anybody knows of one, tell me what it was. And we do know that he removed DEI initiatives. And when he started removing all the DEI stuff at the beginning of this second term, a bunch of people were all sensational about that. And Trump is probably not a fan of affirmative action. I don't know if affirmative action policies even still exist, or he's against it. I know that. Well, I'm black and I'm not a fan of DEI or affirmative action myself. Aren't I supposed to love it? Am I supposed to love both of those? DEI and affirmative action? I'm not a fan of either one of them. Why am I not a fan of either one of them? Because these policies are ostensibly designed to put black people in positions that they otherwise would not have gotten into. And it depends on your reasoning as to why that is. Some say, well, black people wouldn't get into this position because the system and the structure is so racist that it would block black people from getting the job. So DEI allows people who are very qualified to get a job they otherwise wouldn't have gotten. That's one argument. And it's not that argument does not have legs. There are some places where if they were not forced to consider certain types of candidates, maybe those candidates will never get looked at. Is this true? Is that a real thing? The answer is yes, that is a real thing. It's not everywhere, but is that a real thing? Absolutely, yes, it is. And at the same time, we cannot ignore the flip side of it. Flip side is that DEI forces companies to start hitting quotas, not based on performance and skill set and qualification at all. It forces them to hit quotas based on identity, i.e., we need to have a certain number of black people. We got to have a certain number of women. We got to have a certain number of people who are rainbow flag, just because the quota says we have to do it. And if we don't hit the quota, then we won't get our funding from the government. That's a problem. The problem with that is now you are no longer prioritizing skill and performance and qualification. Now you must prioritize identity. And as soon as you start doing that, guess what the trade-off of prioritizing identity is? The trade-off is you're no longer prioritizing performance, which means the performance of your organization must go down because you're not prioritizing it anymore. Anything you're not prioritizing is going to get worse. That's the way it works. Human beings can only focus on one thing at a time, and a business cannot chase two rabbits at once. What is the main focus of this business? The main focus of the business, we need to hire a certain number of black people, or is the main focus we need to hire the best people? I did a whole live stream on this, on the concept of MEI rather than DEI. MEI stands for merit, excellence, and intelligence. If you just hire for that, you will end up with black people. You'll end up with women. You'll end up with some gay people in your organization anyway. Why? Because if you just ask for the best performers that exist, you're going to get a cross section of the country, because the best performers are not based on being white or black or female or what you do in the bedroom. The best performers is just the best performers. And if you just ask for the best performers, you're going to end up with a healthy mix of people. And most importantly, you're going to have any type of diversity in an organization. The diversity is not a diversity of color. It's diversity of thinking. It's a diversity of ideas and a diversity of skill sets, not a diversity of color. All right, so we got an Asian person, we got a black person, we got a white person, we got men, we got women, we got some gay people, we got some heterosexual people, we got some people who were born as a man, but now they call themselves a woman. We got a mix of everything. Does that mean you are successful? No, it just means you got a hodgepodge of people. Does any people have any game? Can they actually do the job? Can they help us be a successful company? We don't know. Why? Because we didn't prioritize bringing in people based on that. We prioritize bringing in people based on what they look like. That's nonsense. You can't win like that. If the New York Knicks said, all right, we got to be diverse. So half of these black guys on the team, our team is too black. So let's kick all the black guys off, put some white guys on the team so we can be diverse. Is that going to help the Knicks get better, or is it going to make them worse? Of course, we know the answer. They're going to be worse. Why? Because we already know that the reason all the black guys were on the team before is because the Knicks said, let's pick the best players we can possibly get, and they happen to all be black. But if all of a sudden now we got to have white guys on the team just because diversity, we got to have some white guys on the team, that team is going to be worse. Why? How do we know this? We know this because when they said, let's get the best players, and some of them happen to be white, we would know those white guys can play. But if all of a sudden the only way we get white guys on the team is because we had to get white boys, we know they can't play. Because if they could play, they would have made the team back when the standard was performance. If the standard has to change in order for you to get in the room, then you should have never been in the room in the first place. I hold that position still to this day, even though I just gave you the point, DEI supporters, that there are some organizations out there that never would have looked at a black person until they were forced to look at a black person. Do I believe that's true? Yes, I do. At the same time, if you are black and you couldn't get into the place that you want to get into when the standard was performance, at least ostensibly performance, then you ain't that good of a performer. That's where I stand. I still stand there to this day. So you're maybe wondering, well, how does that even make sense? Well, maybe you can't get into a certain place because they won't even look at you because you're black. Are there places like that? Yes, there are. Are there places that black people control to say we won't look at you because you're white? Is that true? Yes. Are there as many of them? Hell no. But do these places exist in life? Yes, they do. There are places where someone says we're not looking at you because you're a man and we want a woman. There are places that say we won't look at you because you're a woman and we want a man. Are these things true? The answer is yes, they are true. What I say is that if your performance level is high enough, you will get in where you fit in at a place at somewhere in life, as long as your performance level is high and you just keep trying. You will find a place that you can get in. And then you can work your way back around to the other place that otherwise wasn't paying attention to you. Why? Because your performance is so loud that it's undeniable. There's a book by Cal Newport. It's called So Good They Can't Ignore You. If you've never heard of the book, go buy it and read it. That's the frame from which I come. And again, to remind all of you, or those of you who don't know, my background is as a professional athlete. In the sports world, you cannot DEI your way onto a team. All right. The only way you can get on a team in sports is you have to actually be able to play. And if you can't play, you're not playing. You're not making a team. And any exceptions you know about are exceptions. They're not the rule. So there's a guy for the Milwaukee Bucks, Giannis Antetokounmpo. His brother's on the team. His brother can't play, but his brother's on the team. His brother is an exception to the rule. LeBron James has a son. Y'all heard of him. His son is on, I think he's on the Lakers roster. He don't really play. His son can't play. Not in the NBA, he can't play. That's why he doesn't play. He's an exception to the rule. Most of the players who are in professional sports in every sport, on every level, male, female, no matter what sport you name, they got there because they can play. You cannot DEI your way into the sports world, not on the court. In coaching, yes. Management, yes. You can do all that. That's corporate. So the professional sports world is very corporate, in case any of you didn't know. So anything that happened in the corporate world, in the sports world, the part where they wear the suits, the general managers, the coaches, all that shit, that is all corporate. I'm talking about on the court. On the court, there's no corporate. Either you can play or you can't. So I'm not a fan of DEI or affirmative action. So what does that make me? Does that make me racist? Next, policies by the government that could adversely affect minority communities more than it would affect other communities. Is this a thing? Possibly, depending on what policies you're talking about. And depends on what type of community you're talking about as well. We would need to know the official alternative offered by the government. And this is one of the things that people have been talking about. It's been pretty quiet now. They say Trump is going to get rid of, Medicare. They're going to get rid of the Affordable Care Act, also known as Obamacare. They're going to get rid of SNAP. They're going to get rid of welfare. They're going to get rid of Social Security, allegedly. They haven't done any of these things yet, but you got all these chicken littles running around telling you that the sky is falling down. He's going to do all these things. Let's just say that he actually does these things. The only way I can pass a judgment is I need to know what they're going to replace it with. All right, so if we're not going to have officially Social Security anymore, what are we going to do? I need to know what that is. And understand everything in life has a trade-off. So most of the things that the government is going to replace a program, they're going to replace it with something else. Either some other organization is going to take over that job, or we're going to replace that with this. We need to know what that is. We don't know what the thing is yet. Therefore, we can't draw a conclusion. So anybody who has that question, that's my answer. It is fair to say, it's clear so far that Trump and his current administration are interested in removing layers of bureaucracy from the government. They want to remove financial overspending, whatever they consider to be overspending, and getting the economics of America back in line. So when it comes to those tariffs and specifically going against the C country, and I can't talk too harshly about the C country because I'm on an app that is run by people who are from the C country. But do we believe that's what he's trying to do? All right, is that his intention? Yes. Now, how's it going to work out? We don't know yet. We don't know. We got to see how it goes. And this is the answer that most people should have on most of the things that happen when it comes to current events. Because on these live streams, I tend to talk about current events, i.e. developing stories, things that are happening right now. The general bottom line answer to a lot of these topics is we don't know yet. When it came to that situation in Texas, the black kid stabbed the white kid. We don't know yet. But there's no bottom line conclusion to it yet because we don't have enough information. They have to go to trial. Everyone who claims they know what happened or they saw what happened is going around social media. Get on the stand, put your hand on the Bible, swear on an oath to tell the truth, and then tell me what happened. That's how I know that you truly believe what you're saying. Social media, there's no consequence to lying. There's a consequence to lying in the court of law. So I need to see what you actually say on the stand versus what you said on the internet. That when it comes to that situation, when it comes to this trade situation and the U.S. going against the C country, what's going to happen? We don't know yet. It's a developing story. We don't know what the outcome is going to be. And often economically, when you're talking about hundreds of millions of people, you have to let some months or years go by before we actually know the outcome. Mind you, this is what are we 3 months in the Trump's administration? He started January 19th. So we have February, March. He's not even 90 days into his administration yet. Let's just slow down. He got 4 years. Let's just slow down and let's see what actually happens here. We don't know yet. When it comes to is Trump helping us or is he not? Again, we don't know yet. It's been less than 90 days. Isn't that what everybody said about Kamala Harris? Oh, well, the only reason she lost because she only had like 100 days. Okay, so Donald Trump ain't even had 100 days yet. Now, he hasn't even had as much time as Kamala had, and people are already trying to draw conclusions. What's the difference? What's the difference? Since everyone had an excuse for Kamala losing, she only had 100 days. Okay, Trump hasn't even had 90 days yet. So why is everybody drawing a conclusion about Trump, but everybody has an excuse for Kamala? Can somebody explain that to me? The Democratic Party, all right, at least according to Kamala Harris's campaign, was all about expanding the reach of the government and giving more control and more power to the government to do things that were not logically or reasonably, they didn't even make any sense. This is another reason why I don't believe supporting or agreeing with Trump goes against any self-interest of mine, or I don't know the thoughts any of you have, but I don't want anything that involves the government having more reach and more power and more say. I'm against it. I don't care who it is, even if it was Trump. Anything that involves the government having more reach, more power, more say, I'm not a fan. So something came up on my screen on TikTok, but it's not showing me what it is. I think it's the captcha that I got to do after an hour, but it's not coming up on the screen. So hopefully TikTok doesn't kick me off because I can't see the captcha. Oh, here it is. All right, finally popped up. I know every time I'm on here for an hour, TikTok posts this captcha that you got to solve, like drag the puzzle piece or otherwise they kick you off. All right, it came up now, so we're good. So if you're a black person, this is one that I hear often with black people, is that you're going against your self-interest if you say or think anything positive about Donald Trump. If you're a black person, and I know we got many who are listening to me right now, you must think for yourself. What does that mean? It doesn't mean you have to go against what you already believe. You can keep believing what you want to believe, but you should be able to articulate in your own words why you believe it. Articulate in your own words why you support this person or why you're with this or why you think this or why you have this opinion, that opinion, a third opinion. I'm articulating to you why I have the positions that I have because I've thought about these things. I take in material, obviously, but at the same time, I think about all right, what does this mean for me and what are my principles? What am I standing on? And challenge that I found for most people of all colors is that most people don't know they don't have their own principles. They don't have any principles. And when you don't have principles, that means you have nothing to stand on. And all of you have heard the saying that if you stand for nothing, you fall for anything. Are you familiar with that phrase, right? Okay. And this is the problem that a lot of people have and why people are so easily persuaded by nonsense, emotional arguments. Because if you have no principles to stand on, you have nothing to cross-reference what you're hearing against. Therefore, you can be very easily persuaded by a smooth talker. Politicians are generally really good talkers. They're very smooth speakers. They're good salespeople. Barack Obama, amazing salesperson. Bill Clinton, great salesperson. Donald Trump, great salesperson. Kamala Harris, not so much. That's the reason why she didn't win. Winning politicians are usually really good speakers, and they can convince you of things. If you have no principles, no standards against which to cross-reference what Donald Trump says or what Kamala says or what Joe Biden says or what Barack Obama says, then they will very easily persuade you. Why? Because you have nothing to fight back against them with. That's the reason why I'm telling you where I come from. I come from the background of sports, and I'm telling you that matters because when someone comes to me with this DEI nonsense, I'm telling you why I completely reject it. Because my background is in sports, and you can't DEI in sports. It's not possible. That's why I'm not a fan of DEI. Even though as a black person, I should be a fan, right? Because it's supposed to be quote unquote helping me. I don't need DEI's help. Because in the sports world, you got to play your way onto the field. And in the business world, I conduct myself the same way. Let me play my way onto the field. And I'll keep myself on the field by the way that I play. I don't need any policy to get me in the room. Now, if you want a policy to get you in the room, that's your decision. I'm just telling you why I disagree with it. So the point is, all of you need to be clear on what your principles are, what you're about, especially those of you who are parents. If you're a parent, your kids are going to go out into the world, and my son is only 2 years of age. So if you have a kid that young, they don't know enough yet to really take in what they're taking in. Like I'll be listening to something, I'll say something, and my son will say, well, what does that mean? He doesn't understand it yet. But eventually, those of you who have kids who are older, you got kids who are teenagers, all right, they understand. They understand. They can get on TikTok and listen to me, and they understand everything I'm saying. They may not agree with it. They may not listen to the whole thing, but they understand the words that are coming out of my mouth. Your kids are going to go out into the world, and they're going to get on the internet, and they're going to hear shit. And what are they going to cross-reference it with? Hopefully what you, mom and dad, taught your kids. Because if you taught your kids nothing and you just left them as open vessels with wide open doors, then the world is going to program your kids, and it might be in a way that you don't want them to be programmed. That's why you need to be careful about what you're letting your kids consume versus what you are establishing in the minds of your kids. You give your kids the foundation so that when they go out into the world, they can cross-reference everything they hear with what they already know. What they know is based on what they get at home. What they hear is based on what they get outside of the home. And if your foundation is strong enough, what you taught them at home, then no nonsense that they get from the outside world is going to undo that. But if you didn't do your job as a parent and your kids go out there as an open vessel, well, your son might come home as your daughter. And you don't agree with that. But hey, you had 18 years to set it right. You had 12 years to get it right. You didn't do it. So whose fault is that? That's the way that I look at it. So if you're a black person, again, think for yourself. Have your own reasons why you're thinking what you're thinking. If you are a white person, especially white liberals, if you're a white liberal, if you're a white and you are anti-Trump, I'm sure there's at least one of you in here right now. We'll see as soon as I get to the comments. If you're white and anti-Trump, and when it comes to black and brown people and their opinions about Trump, mind your damn business. Your business is what's going on in your life and what you're doing. It is not your business. You can have your opinion. All right, same way I got my opinion, but it's not your business as a white anti-Trumper to tell a black or brown person what they should be interested in and what they should care about and what they should support just by the virtue of their skin color. Because if a black person went to a white person and said, hey, you're white, you're supposed to believe this, it would sound silly. So how is it okay for a white person to go to a black person and say, well, you're black, so you're supposed to believe this? That's ridiculous. There was a person named Chelsea Handler. You know Chelsea Handler, a comedian, and I haven't heard any of her work in a long time. But I remember this white girl I knew a few years after college. She used to watch Chelsea Handler's show, and she was actually funny back then. I don't know if she's funny anymore, but she was funny then. And she used to date this rapper named 50 Cent. And back in I think it was the 2020 election cycle, 50 Cent was saying, well, he was going to support Trump. And then Chelsea Handler came on TV and said, well, 50 needs to understand that he's black and therefore he can't support Trump. He has to do that. And, you know, Chelsea Handler has like this deadpan type of humor, but she wasn't joking. She was dead serious. And this is the language of the white liberal that I'm really not a fan of. Because, again, can 50 Cent go to Chelsea Handler and say, hey, you're white, so you're supposed to do this? It wouldn't even sound right. So why is it okay for a white person to go to a black or brown person and say, well, you're black or you're brown or you're whatever, you're a minority, so you can't think this, you're supposed to think that? That's ridiculous. You can't tell another person how they're supposed to think. You can give them information. You can challenge their position, but you can't tell someone else how they're supposed to think. And again, if a black person tried to tell you what to think because you're white, you would respond with incredulity. So why should a black person listen to you just because you're white and you're telling them what they're supposed to do? That's ridiculous. Again, you can't tell someone how to behave based on skin color. All that applies to all of you, even black people. You can't tell another black person what to do just because they're black. All right, black people don't all think alike. Same way white people don't all think alike. And if you are white and you don't like being grouped a certain way just by being white, okay, then don't do it to anybody else. That one should be a real simple. That's one that you learn in kindergarten. But unfortunately, we got to keep telling that to grown adults out here these days. So here's what I'm going to do right now. What I'm going to do now is I got to run to the restroom. It's going to take me 90 seconds. Let me go to the restroom. Then we're going to get into the comments. I'm sure there's some things that some of you have to say. I'm going to read them out loud. I'll respond to the good ones. Give me 90 seconds after these messages. We'll be right back. All right, here we go. Let's get to it. Comments. I think I saw something come through on Instagram. I'm gonna respond to that. I'm gonna do TikTok. I'm gonna come to TikTok last because y'all had the most comments on TikTok. Facebook. I don't know if Facebook actually started. LinkedIn is in, but I can't see comments on LinkedIn. On Instagram, Belfort Williams said, "From that logic, it's okay for social media websites and where you shop to seek sell your information to companies against your will. They tend to rationalize by listing it in 1.5 font and a language need a Juris Doctorate to understand." Yes, that is what they do. So yes, they put it in. They call that the fine print. Yeah, 1.5 font is what they call the fine print, and companies hide things in the fine print. So most of you, when you sign up for an app like TikTok or anything else, you check a little box that says, "I agree to the terms and conditions." So how many times have any of you checked the box and said, "I agree to the terms and conditions"? Most of you have done it hundreds of times. And sometimes you just sign up for something and they just say, "By giving us your email address, you agree to the terms and conditions." Let me ask you a question. How many of you have ever clicked on a link that says terms and conditions and actually read what it says? Most of you, the answer is never. You've never done it. Which means you have given up a lot of your privacy and didn't even realize that you were doing it. By the time you realize it, all your privacy is already gone. The point being, and that's Belfort was responding to what I was saying about the ethical question of, is it illegal if you break the law but you don't get caught? And I say the game is the game. If they can get away with it, or you could get away with it, they or you will probably do it. Now, most people may say publicly, "I would never do that because it's a bad thing." But okay, let's put the opportunity in front of you without cameras around. Let's see what you do then. That's what I say to most human beings, especially when they're trying to moralize about the terrible things they would never do. Sounds good when you're saying it. Kofi Coach, good morning. Appreciate you. Self-sufficient Bay, good morning to you. All right, TikTok, let's get to it. Let me scroll up as far up as I can. By the way, let me say this again on TikTok. I am replying to comments from the top, so that means I'm not seeing what you're saying at the moment that you say it. I'm reading from the top. It takes me a while to get back to real time. Okay, everybody got it? So let's go. Terrell, Ty, the security guy, says, "Not illegal because we're not insiders." Yeah, but what if you did everything the insider did because it's publicly available? Does that make you unethical? Heather says, "Breaking the law because charges can be filed." Yes, it's breaking the law if they file charges. But what if you break the law and they never file charges because you never got caught? Did you break the law? Nana's Glitter said, "They delay reporting so their trades are complete and we don't even know." Right, because they have a window. So yes, that is one of the things they do. They don't report it until the end of the window often, or they'll wait so that you can't see it when it happens. So then you don't get the same advantages that they got. Now, what I would do, I would maybe go find Marjorie Taylor Greene and say, "Hey, just send me a text every time you buy something so I can buy the same thing." Now, would that be breaking the law? I don't know. Let me ask ChatGPT. Let's see what ChatGPT says about that. Let's say that I know a congressperson and they have insider knowledge that I don't have access to, and I tell them to just tell me every time they're about to buy a stock, period. Am I breaking the law by even making that offer? So let's see. So what ChatGPT says is that you're walking a legal tightrope. Now, you could be breaking the law by soliciting material, non-public information. So you're soliciting insider information, and that's illegal under the Securities Exchange Act and reinforced by the Stock Act. And there's also a conspiracy to commit insider trading. So I'm engaging in a scheme. Okay, so I probably couldn't do it then. The congressperson could also be breaking the law by giving me information that I'm intending to use. So both of us are on the hook. And if they benefit from it, that's a violation. Even if I don't act, just by having access to the information and having a relationship that gives me an edge can trigger an SEC ethics investigation. And the optics alone could bring a legal headache. Okay, so I guess I couldn't do that. So I guess I just got to run for. I guess I just got to run for Congress, folks. I think that's all I got to do. All right, so I think I got to run for Congress, and then I'll do a TikTok every day telling you what stocks I'm buying, not for you to use, just for informational purposes. I think that's what I should do. So Nikki said, "Tree makes a noise around other trees." Okay, so let's talk about this tree making a noise thing. So if a tree falls in the forest and nobody hears it, does it make a noise? Let's ask ChatGPT. All right, ChatGPT is coming in handy today. If a tree falls in the forest and nobody is there to hear it, does it make a sound? So let's see. They say the classic philosophical brain twister. So scientifically and then philosophically. So here they say scientifically, yes, it makes a sound because a sound means a vibration in the air. Okay, that's a different way than I interpreted sound. And they say a falling tree causes vibrations, which means sound waves exist whether or not someone is there to hear them. So by the physics definition, yes, if a tree falls and no one hears it, a sound happened. ChatGPT says. Philosophically, they say it depends on how you define sound. This is one of the things I'm talking about. We're in an information world now because we can't even agree on a definition. So if you define sound as it only exists when the sound is perceived, then if there is no ear, there is no sound. So this is the idealism take that reality requires an observer, which is similar to what we were just talking about. It's not a crime if you don't get caught. Same thing. The deeper idea is that it's not really about the tree. It's about perception versus reality. And yes, that's correct. See, ChatGPT is pretty smart. Is something real if it happens and nobody sees it, or does observation give things meaning? That is the philosophical question. That is it right there. Perception versus reality. Because again, if I break the law and nobody knows about it, did I break the law? I say no. Some of you say yes. And the perception of me breaking the law. So if I'm running outside, like sometimes I'll be outside running. I'll get up and run at like 4 or 5 in the morning. And if I get up and run, and at some point during my run, I need to urinate and I stop and I piss next to a tree, technically that's public urination, which I could be arrested for. But if no cops see me, did I break the law? I say no. And I've never been arrested for it because I make sure ain't nobody seeing me when I do it. It's dark outside, it's 4 in the morning. I make sure nobody's around and I take a piss next to the tree. That's the reality that I did it. But the perception is nobody saw it. So it didn't happen. The modern twist is in a world obsessed with content. If it wasn't recorded, did it really happen? Yes, it's a good question. So they say, ChatGPT says this metaphor has legs. Yes, it does have legs. It has a lot of legs. So the answer is we don't know. What we need is a definition of the word sound. All right. So give me the Oxford Dictionary definition of the word sound, comma, as that can give us a better answer as to which one it is or isn't. So who knew we'd be talking about trees falling in the forest here today? We're supposed to be talking about Donald Trump. But let's see. So the physical definition of sound from the Oxford Dictionary is this. Vibrations transmitted through an elastic medium, typically air, which can be perceived by the sense of hearing. The perceptual definition is the sensation produced by the air in the air by those vibrations. So it depends on which definition you want to use. So there's no right answer to this question. So if you want to use the physical definition or the perceptual definition of sound, and here's the issue of humanity that we are moving into. I'm making this is a bigger picture thing, because if there's more than one definition of a term and two people are having a discussion about that term and one person wants to use this definition and you want to use that definition, we're both factually correct, yet we can't come to a conclusion because we're both using a different set of facts. This is where the world is going, folks. And the problem is not that this definition has always existed. These two definitions have existed since before we had the internet. Now with the internet, now all of us have access to as many facts as we want to get access to. Therefore, we don't ever have to agree on anything. And that's why we're going to have anarchy. O-Dog said, perception is subjective. Reality is not. Sound was made whether it was heard or not. Okay, so we got some more people on the sound did happen than we have on the sound did not happen. This is It's an interesting question. I got to play around with this one a little bit more, maybe. So Courtney said, his little voice is so sweet. Yes, it is. I agree. Kudo said, I like to say I wouldn't do it, but if I'm getting rich, it's hard to answer true. Yeah, that's what I'm saying. If you could do it and get away with it, why wouldn't you do it? Heather said, if they have evidence that they are holding. Nikki said, exactly. Noise has to be registered by the human ears. Okay, so there's a vote for the philosophical definition or the perceptual definition. So somebody should write a term paper on this. I'm sure someone's done like a college thesis on if a tree falls in the forest, did it actually make a sound? Fab said he's just playing with us at this point. Nanza, yeah, so the trade reporting is delayed. So according to what the law says, I think it's 45 days. Let me get the actual number. I think it was 45 days. So you have to report your trade. Where is the number at? I know I read it. Yeah. If you spend at least $1,000, you have to report your trade within 45 days. So by the time if you wait till like day 44 to report your trade and publicly disclose, you already made the money. You already locked in you didn't lock in, but you already made your profit. And now by the time the rest of the world knows what you did, they can't get the same advantage as you. So is this a legal loophole? Yes, it's a hell of a loophole. And the question is, why is nobody enforcing the law? Anybody have an answer to that? Why are they not enforcing this? So Ginger said there's an app. That makes sense. Fab says it doesn't make us unethical because we don't know with absolute certainty that they're inside. Okay. We're at 36,000 likes. Carla, thank you for telling people to tap the screen. Please tap the screen, everybody, as much as possible. Nana Glitter said, it's pointless to follow their trades because their reporting is delayed. Well, maybe you can find somebody who reports quickly, technically. It depends. Do we know when they reported? Do we know when they made the trade versus when they actually reported the trade? Let's see if we can find that out. Because I want to look at this. So Marjorie Taylor Greene. So they do put the dates on here. So based on this, they do put the dates. So Unusual Whales is the name of the account. That it's this one right here. Unusual Whales on X. Stock options, crypto market news and tools, not advice. So they just tell you what these folks are doing. They got 2 million followers on X. So clearly I'm not the only one who knows about this. And this was posted on the 8th of April, 2 days ago. And the trades happened on the 4th, the 3rd and the 4th. So she made a bunch of buys on the 4th and the 3rd, and then it got posted on the 8th. So she actually reported, and she reported on the 7th. So they tell you all this right here. So she bought on the 3rd and 4th, and then she reported on the 7th. So this was Friday, right when Trump made the announcement, and then she reported it on Monday. So I don't know. What can we do with that information? At least she didn't wait the whole 45 days. So maybe she might be somewhat telling us the truth when it happens. Tyler said they haven't been charged or even investigated. So until then, it's insider trading. Yeah, well, it looks like, yeah, y'all were right. I thought it wasn't illegal because I had always heard that they were immune to insider trading laws, but they clearly are not. But at the same time, it's kind of like they are because nobody's enforcing the law. So again, if you're breaking the law and no one's enforcing the fact that you're breaking the law, are you really breaking the law? It becomes another philosophical question. Are you breaking the law? Zoe King said, I live in America. America is unethical. Well, many aspects of it are unethical. Human beings are unethical. Not Murphy, Zoe King. Humans are unethical. So move to another country. They're unethical over there too. You just happen to have the American experience. Murphy said, possession of stolen property is, oh yeah, we talked about that one. Carl said, I used to buy movies out of some guy's trunk. Then I stopped because God is always watching. Well, Carl, you're a better person than me. I would have kept buying them. If I wanted to see the movies, I would have kept buying them for cheap. Fab said, ethics and opinions vary, but laws, true, should not be subject to interpretation. Well, they have to be, Fab the CEO, because that's why we have courts. That's the reason that you got judges and juries, because they get to interpret the law. That's the whole point. And that's why we got lawyers, because they get to interpret the law. Just like this situation in Texas. The kid stabbed the other kid, and some say the white kid started and the black kid finished it. Okay, well, let's interpret the law. We got to interpret, does that make it okay? And that's going to determine what happens with the rest of this kid's life. One kid is already dead. The other kid might be in jail for a long time. So that's the reason why we have court. Carlos said, that's why my ethics and morality come from God and not man. That's a very good point. It's a very good point, because if we base it on man, then it's highly subjective. But if you base it on God, I'm assuming those of you who are religious, then it's not subjective. I respect that. Marky says, it's more like Does a bear shit in the woods? There's evidence. Yeah, so at least if there's evidence, then we know. Tom said, yeah, 45 days at that time. Tom Lee, 45 days. So you may not reap, right? Because they might make all their profit in like 2 days. So by the time they report 3 days later, you already missed the boat. That's very correct. Fab said there has to be some moralizing. That's why religion exists in the world, is not chaos. Yes, there does have to be some moralizing. The problem is that you can easily reject another person's moralizing by pointing out that they are not 100% devoid of sin. That, again, that's the reason why you have atheists, because people can say, well, first of all, they can just question the religion because every religion is based on a story, right? And no one has to accept the story. That's the issue. So there's a lot of philosophical issues that don't really have black and white answers. Zoe said, I would have bought 50 books. I would have bought $50. Fab said, think of what this world would be like if there were no morals or ethics. Oh, Fab, you don't have to worry about it. It's coming. It's coming. I think if Trump hadn't won, we would see more of it right now. I think it's still on the way. And the reason why it's on the way is because nothing the government does can stop it. Because people, just everyday people, do not have principles. People don't have principles. They don't have ethics. We no longer enforce standards societally the way we used to. I remember back in the 90s, right? There would be rap videos and girls would be in like the kind of shorts you see girls walking around with these days when they go to the gym, and they walk around, they go to Starbucks, they go to the mall wearing them. Girls used to only wear those in the gym. And then as soon as they got to the gym, they put other clothes on. But there would be girls in rap videos wearing that. And people my mom's age would be like, oh my God, do you see what they're wearing? Can you believe they have their asses out like that? Nowadays, that's normal. Now it's normal. You could walk around like that all day. And that's just your normal outfit. You're not even going to the gym. All right. So you see girls wearing clothes like that and they're not even working out. They just have it on. It's just normal. The standards have been lowered. It used to be, I'll give you another example. Michael Jordan, when he had his first child, he was not yet married to his ex-wife. His woman he was married to all his career, he had his three kids. He got 2 boys and a girl he had by his first wife. And when he had that first kid, the news reporters found out he was about to have a kid. And he asked the media, please don't report that I'm having a kid because I'm not married yet. And I don't want that story getting out that I'm having a kid out of wedlock, because having a kid out of wedlock was societally, you were looked down upon if you were having a kid and you weren't married to the mother of that kid. That's how it was. This is back in the 80s. Now look at it. Now there's players in the NBA that got 3 or 4 different babies' moms, had no intention of marrying any of those babies' moms, and it's just accepted. It's just normal. And people will defend it by saying, well, he got a whole bunch of money, so it's okay. He can afford to have a bunch of kids because here today, but you don't raise kids with money. You raise kids with your physical presence. But we've accepted this, and societally, the standards have been lowered. This is the whole thing. This is what I'm saying. In basketball, for example, the coaches used to come to every game wearing a suit and tie. They used to be dressed like this. They'd come to the game in a suit and tie. All the coaches will wear a suit and tie. Now go watch a basketball game. What are the coaches wearing? Most of them are in suits. They're in they got on basically sweatpants and polo shirts. The standards have been lowered. And this is just all overall society. We're lowering standards. The reason why this matters, and I'm just using that as an example, the reason why it matters is because when you lower standards, then the law of entropy starts to take over. And the law of entropy states that everything is always moving into a state of increased chaos and disorder. And the only thing that staves off chaos and disorder are standards. So the more you lower and relax and don't enforce standards, the more chaos and disorder you get. So yes, there are people with ethics and morals out there, Fab, the CEO, but because we are not enforcing those ethics and morals as much, because people don't respect religion as much as they used to, therefore, we're going to get more chaos and disorder. It's one or the other. You're either moving more towards enforcing the standard or you're moving more towards the chaos. And right now, we are moving more towards chaos. This is how you get your son. It was Mike when he left your house this morning, but he's Michelle when he comes home. Why? Because we don't enforce the standards anymore. All right, that was a ridiculous idea. In 1992, you go to school and say, hey, I'm Mike, but I now want to be Michelle. Everybody in the room be laughing at you. The teacher be laughing at you. All right, they send you to the counselor's office to get some psychiatric drugs because something's wrong with you. Now you announce that you're used to be Mike and now you're Michelle. Now you get a parade. You get a celebration. You get a party. Why? Because we have lowered the standards. We are not enforcing these standards and rules anymore. Therefore, people just do what they want to do. Mike said they took the first step just because the public not gathering information. So if they Your comment got cut off. Nana said, Trump's tariff hurt my business a lot. I voted for him and will still vote for him again. Fair enough. And because we got to see the outcome of these tariffs. I mean, it's only been a week. So we got to see the outcomes of these. Zoe King said, I don't care about the money. Okay, fair enough. Robert said, unrealized gains. Yes, correct. Kudo said, I've always said money is fake. Well, the money in America is make believe money. I mean, it's real in that you can use it for things, but it's make believe. As long as we keep believing, then the money matters. If we stop believing, the money means nothing. Jeff Johnson, thanks for the heart. Glenn McCandless, thank you for the share. Fab said, paper gains and losses don't count. Yes, that's the way I see it, but I got a lot of pushback on X when I said that. If the government has a problem with somebody, they should be young enough to fight one-on-one. Who do you mean? Carlos said, how much did he make when it went up yesterday? No, see, he didn't say that part. He only talked about it going down. That's what I mean. I think these people are just using it opportunistically to get attention for themselves. Carlos said, or here a man was hit by a semi on a motorcycle and they said he died from the virus. Yeah, that's what they were doing. They were testing dead bodies for the virus. And if you had the virus, then you got marked as a virus death. That was crazy. Fielding said, Black Mr. Clean has a point. All right, thanks. I look better than Mr. Clean. Fab said, you should short sell when there's a huge dip in the market. Well, Fab, don't get too complicated for people. All right, some people just need to start. That's where we got to start. Then buy when you see it coming back up. Yes, if people who understand that, Fab, could do that, but also requires you paying attention. I don't even pay attention. I buy and forget. That's my motto is buy and forget. I don't sell anything. I don't go do anything different when the market went down and up this past week. I didn't do anything except I bought more stuff, a little bit more than I normally would. That's it. Fab said buying and selling the next days is called swing trading. Yeah, see, I'm not a trader. So you understand the trading space. I'm not a trader. I invest and then do nothing. Robert said, Buffett said buy S&P index and don't touch. That's a very good strategy. The S&P index has gone up an average of 10 to 11% every year over the last 100 years. Therefore, if you invested $1,000 100 years ago, it'd be worth millions of dollars today. And I said that, Robert, I don't know if you were here, Robert Reviews, like 3 days ago, we were talking about this a lot in the comments period. I told people, if you get invested, if you want to start investing right now, you don't know anything, just buy the S&P 500. That's called SPY or VOO. That's the Vanguard one. They both are pretty much the same. Buy either one of those or both of them and don't do anything. Just buy it and let it sit there. Don't even look at it. Just buy it and do nothing. And then consistently reinvest into it. Doesn't matter. Don't care what the market's doing. Don't care what Trump said. Don't care what they say on TV. Just buy into the S&P 500 and put a specific amount in there consistently, like every week or every day or every month, whatever you do, just do it over and over and over again. Don't do anything else. That is good investing advice. And do the same thing for your kids. If you have kids, get them what do they call those accounts? I got a couple for my son. Custodial accounts. Yeah. So get a custodial account for your kids who are under 18 and just put it in the S&P 500. It will be around. Fab said, I meant selling the way down while it's dipping, then buying when it starts coming back up. I get what you're saying, but then you had to time the market. And that requires some advanced knowledge that most people who are listening to this, Fab, they don't need that. They just need the basics. Joe said, where's the best place to buy stocks right now? Anywhere that allows you to buy them. They all got the same stocks. So Robinhood, Fidelity, Stash, even Cash App lets you buy stocks. You can buy stocks on damn near any app that has money. There's one called Acorns. I use so many of them, but any one of them, doesn't matter. Just pick any one that allows you to buy stocks and just start buying. Again, knowing that when you buy stocks, you are taking a financial risk. Marcus said gold is up. Great. Fab said it'll probably be a rough year and then things will start to level back out. It just takes time. Yes, which means if it's going to be a rough year, meaning the numbers are down, that's when people should buy. Buy as much as you can if you believe the numbers will go back up. Again, all of this is when you're in the financial market, you are risking your money. Fab said, you do short selling. I already answered that one. I already responded to that one. Nana said they didn't want Section 8. Who are you talking about? Adrian said, can you say these names on Trump, but can't see the dementia Joe we had? What are you saying, Adrian? I'm not quite getting what you're saying. Joe said, I'm a white man. It's harder for us to get entry-level jobs because we're not diverse. Well, it depends on what industry, but I understand you. Ocean Love said, forced diversity by identity may lower performance. Of course, it does. It doesn't may lower performance. It does lower performance because it no longer, if you're prioritizing one thing, then you stop prioritizing it, you're going to get worse at that thing by definition. There's no way you can get better at something if you're not prioritizing it. Joyous Freedom says, it's insane how many people don't understand this. No, I think people do understand it, Joyous Freedom. They just don't want to accept it is the issue. It's not that they don't understand it. Indiana Homegirl said, Trump is not a racist. He has proven that over and over. He's just not playing the silly games. Well, the thing about racism is it's mostly an accusation. It's not really something that you can prove. So, yeah, I'm not a fan of calling people racist. These days, it doesn't really mean anything because people have overused the word. Deanne said, President Trump restructuring the company for better. Well, we'll see. That's what we're waiting to see. Joyous Freedom said, the best performers. Yes, exactly. Heidi said, we need the best people to do the job. Yes, that should always be the case. The thing is, decisions like this are subjective. So someone can get chosen and you could say they're the best person, but then somebody else says, well, they're not the best person. Carla said, make sure you have a beneficiary listed on your investments in case you die so your heirs know. Yeah, it's also important. Make sure there's a beneficiary so that if anything happens to you, then others can get in the space that get in and control the things that you left behind. Where are we? Okay. I think we might catch up on the comments here today. Let's see. Fab said, the answer you just gave depends on which industry we're talking about. Yes, it does. Very much. Ocean Love said, wow, this is so refreshing. Thanks for your contribution, making the world better. Thank you. Joyous Freedom said, I don't care who you are. I care about your ability. Well, that's not how DEI works. That's the point. The point of DEI is everything's about who you are. First World Problems. Good morning. Cyberfit. Good morning. Fab said, I don't agree with any quotas, but you have to agree that there's a reason why all of this came about. Yes, I definitely agree there's a reason it all came about because a bunch of minorities and some white people said, hey, these organizations too many of the same type of people in these organizations. Therefore, we got to mix it up and get some other people in these spaces. And these people got to get comfortable being uncomfortable, being around people who don't look and sound like them. I understand the premise. I don't agree with the implementation. I understand why they did it, though. I get it. I understand how a DEI supporter could make a very strong case for why DEI is necessary. And they can have some supporting evidence that actually is true. At the same time, I fundamentally don't agree with the concept. Carla said, I don't like DEI either. Whenever I got a promotion, people would say it's because I was black. Yes, that's another reason why I don't like it, because I don't want anyone looking at me and saying, well, the only reason you're here is because they had to pick a black person. No, I'm here because I can perform. So I don't want there to even be a possibility of somebody saying that to or about me. User 26 said, I love your video on live. Thank you. Well, thank you. TikTok Team said, in reality, nepotism and hiring based on personality will prevail and the best people will not get the job. Depends on the industry. TikTok Team, listen, if I'm running a local deli in my neighborhood, yeah, nepotism, I'm going to hire my child, I'm going to hire my son and my daughter to work for me. So the best person, are they the best possible candidates? Well, it depends on who you're asking. If you ask me who's the best candidate, I'm going to say my kids. Why? Because it's my business. I get to make the decisions. Now, if I start taking money from the government and I get tax breaks from the government, now they can put stipulations on that money. And they can say, Dre, since you're taking $1 million a year from us, you got to hire a certain number of black people, a certain number of girls, a certain number of rainbow people in order to keep getting this money from us. And because I took their money, I got to do what they say. All right. Again, that's one of the third laws of economics. It's the third law of economics. No free lunches. So if the government is giving you money, you have to do what the government says. This is why DEI was so hot during the Biden administration, because the Biden administration said everyone who's getting money or a tax break from us or any type of benefit from us, you got to do what we say. And we say DEI. Trump comes in and he says no DEI. So now these companies can go doing what they want to do. So people got to understand that. And a lot of big corporations, rather, it's not just everyday companies. I'm not talking about some mom and pop car wash down the street. I'm talking about corporations that take government money. You have to do what the government tells you to do if you want their money. If you don't want to do what they say, then you lose their money. And that money might be the only reason you're still in business. So again, you get your hands tied behind your back. You have to follow the rules. This is the reason why a lot of business owners, you hear, well, in the world that I'm in, the entrepreneurship world, you hear a lot of entrepreneurs talking about bootstrapping. Bootstrapping means, all of you heard, pull yourself up by the bootstraps. It means literally that. You build your business. You maintain complete ownership over your business, or at least majority ownership over your business. The government is not in your business. Therefore, you can do what you want to do, and you don't have to have anybody dictating to you how to run your own business. This is the reason why any of you know anything about venture capital or taking funding from people. When somebody buys into your business and they write you a check so that you can run your business, they get to have a say in how you operate your business. Even if you don't want them to have a say, okay, give them their money back. No, you can't run your business without their money. So now you got to listen to them. So this becomes this question that you got to ask yourself: do we want to take funding? Because if you take funding from other people, they may, depending on the structure of the deal, they get to tell you what to do and what you can't do. And some of the reasons why you started business is so that nobody can tell you what to do. But now here you are having somebody tell you what to do. Same thing you were trying to get away from. Now you're stuck in it. So this is an existential issue that business owners have to deal with, especially when you start to build up and scale your business to the point that you have a bunch of people working for you and maybe you need some money so you can keep your business afloat. Now you got to deal with all that. Liberals adapt to dysfunctional past leadership is why don't understand restructure being exercised. Deanna, I don't quite understand what you're saying there. Amber, thank you for the rose. Carlos said merit-based is best for every industry. Yes, I think so too. The problem is when it's merit-based, you're going to get these homogenous organizations where it might be a bunch of white guys. And then people are going to complain, hey, there's a bunch of white guys. And then because people are emotionally triggered by that, they'll say, oh, y'all got to do something. I can't have all white guys. Now they got to bring in some people who may not be good just because they're not white guys. AB7 said merit is unknown in the eye of the beholder. Technically, you are correct. But again, if I'm the business owner, I should be able to hire whoever I want based on what I see as merit. It's subjective is the word that you're describing there. Subjectivity. And if I'm running the business, then yes, everything is based on my subjective opinion. Why? Because I'm the one writing the check. Ocean Love says, that book good for athletes too? Yes, the book is good as just a general idea. So good they can't ignore you. Here's my theory on books. My philosophy on books, folks. If someone mentions a book, just go get it and read it. It doesn't have to be specifically for your industry or for whatever you do. I read a lot of books that have nothing to do with my industry. I can get a good idea from any book. So I would suggest any book you hear about, read it. Carla said, Giannis is my little one's second favorite. First is Luka. Yeah, well, Giannis got his brother an NBA contract, and his brother should not be in the NBA. So shout out to Giannis for that. There's some nepotism for you right there. Fab, the CEO, says the problem only happens when a policy disproportionately affects one community versus another. Yes, well, here's the thing, Fab. You could take any policy and draw a line to how it's doing that for any group. So every policy that exists, you could say, hey, this is disproportionately affecting us. And this policy is doing it to these people. This policy is doing it. You can do that with every single policy that exists. That's the reason why the government is the government. That's why you have all this red tape, because everybody's kind of fighting to get their way. And they're all using the same argument just for different reasons. That's why I'm not a fan of the government. That's why I wouldn't want to work in it, because it's just all this bureaucracy. It's just all this red tape and people just talking shit and arguing with each other, and nothing's actually getting done. That's the whole thing. All these people are doing is arguing with each other over the policy and the wording of things, and nothing actually gets achieved because most of the time it's taken up in the bullshit. That's why I'm not a fan of the government. That's why I would never want to work in the government. And I'm damn sure not working in the government and having somebody tell me what I can and can't do. That's not happening. So that's my issue with the government in general. Carl said, a lot of time the private sector filled the gaps of needs. Yes, it does. Trump is supportive of the private sector. Kamala pretended that she was. The problem is it came with strings. Howie said, I'd love to see you debate on political lives on here. You would love to see me debate on what kind of political live? What are you talking about? I don't know about what other people do on this app because I don't watch other people's stuff, but what are you referring to? Sean Everett said, Mike Johnson does not live with his wife. He lives with some pastor. Mike Johnson, who? What Mike Johnson are you talking about? You talking about the speaker? I don't know anything about that. Are you asking or are you telling? Carl said, we the people need to start living without or in spite of the government. Yes, well, we're always going to have the government probably. But in spite of it, yeah, I would say that. User says, just like the stock market, come back the next day, one bit crisis, always sad. Fab said, whether you believe he's helping or not, you have to agree that he's taking action. Yes, that we can agree on. Avery said, he's expressed no interest in helping, none. In fact, he's offended when asked. Who are you talking about? Marky Man said, like your tie today. Thank you. Sergeant Maj said, that's the whole Democratic Party, more government. I would have to agree with that. That was the issue. One of the biggest issues I had with Kamala was that everything she proposed would require you giving more power to the government to go in order to get it. I'm not a fan of that. I don't want anything the government's going to give me if I got to give them more oversight in my life or my business. So if I got to not get the handout from the government, Kamala, in order to keep my own autonomy, then I'd rather keep my autonomy. And a lot of people didn't notice that about Kamala's campaign. She just kept coming out with more stuff the government's going to give you, like for free. Are you just going to give me stuff? Carl said, to see Dre do a debate would be awesome. Well, yeah, who do you think I should debate against? Because see, some of these folks who debate politics, my thing is not really politics. What I'm really talking about is just overall, I'm just talking about logic and objectively looking at things. I'm not debating like, it's not like I'm arguing about a policy. Like this tariff is going to do this percent and it'll make this much money. I wouldn't debate somebody on that because they probably know a lot more about that than I do. That's not my area. My area of expertise is just my ability to logically and objectively break things down at a level that the everyday person can understand. I'm not trying to argue like percentage points and the amount of a tariff and trade deficits with people. So if that's what they're talking about, I wouldn't debate with that person because I'm setting myself up for defeat. And that's not my area of expertise. They got that. But if someone is talking how I'm talking and we happen to disagree, I'm open to that. But y'all had to tell me who that person is. Joe said, man, where were you all my life? Well, I'm here now. I don't know how old you are, but you got from now until you die, I'm here. As long as I'm around. And when I'm not, you got 30 years of content, 20 years of content to catch up on. Traditional said, people don't think for themselves, nor do they read. Generally, that is true. As a general idea, that's very true. David said, first streamer that looks at things from both sides, thank God. Well, thank you. Glad you found me. Chance said, Trump is winning. Well, he already won. He won in November. And now he has 4 years to show us that he's going to achieve what he said he was going to achieve. So we got to give him time. It hasn't even been 90 days yet. Does it feel like that? I feel like he's been president for like 3 years. This term feels like 3 years. It hasn't even been 3 months. David said, I'd rather be told no than told yes just because they feel bad for me. I agree. Fab said, you can DEI in sports, get the best from each racial background. Let me think about that. I don't know if that makes it DEI, though, because if you get the best from each racial background, the third best black guy might be better than the best Asian guy. So then what are you going to do? Are you going to pick the Asian guy or the black guy? The 10th best black guy is probably better than the best Asian guy. So that's the problem. Like, look at the NBA right now. How many Asians in the NBA right now? I don't know if there's any. Is there any Asians playing in the NBA right now? I can't think of any. I know we had Yao Ming a long time ago. He'd been retired. Who else we had? So like the 200th best black guy is better than the best Asian guy. So that'll still be an issue. Carla, thank you for the GOAT gift. Donald Robinson, thanks for the follow-up. Fab said, affirmative action DEI were to combat the controlling racial groups' prejudice and preference. Yes, I know. I understand. And I understand why they did it. I can understand a solid argument in favor of DEI. I can make a solid argument in favor of DEI. Even though I could do that, I'm still not fundamentally a fan of DEI because, again, I say, even if you're in an industry where they're actively working, not even actively working, but prejudice may be blocking you from certain opportunities. If you're good enough, you will find a way to get in anyway. That's my mentality. Again, I got that mentality from my background as an athlete. And even as a professional speaker to this day, I'm a black guy who people look at me relatively young compared to the speakers you see. Most of them are middle-aged white men. So how do I get on the stage? I get on the stage because I got to be just as good, if not better than some of them, so that the middle-aged white man who's making the decision says, damn, I usually pick middle-aged white men. They're not consciously saying this. I usually pick middle-aged white men, but damn, this guy Dre is so good, I'm going to have to go against the grain and take him this time. And that's how I end up on the stage. I'm okay with that being the situation. I'm okay with having to be so much better that's how I get in. AJ said, remember when Biden said you're not black, you don't vote Democratic? Yes, and that was ridiculous. And Charlemagne the God, who was the one interviewing him when he said that, sat there and let him say it. And then when he had the Breakfast Club, Charlemagne had Larry Elder on the show. Charlemagne started trying to go at him, talking about, well, you're saying things that are kind of, he was questioning his like racial loyalty in his Charlemagne type of way, like trying to sound intellectual when he's actually not. And Larry Elder called him out and said, dude, you had Joe Biden on your show. And he said, if you don't vote for me, you're not black. And you sat there and let him do it. And Charlemagne didn't really have anything to say back to that because there's nothing he could say back to it. Dalium AK said, thank you, Dre. Say it again for the people in the back. Mind your own business. Yes. You know who was saying that all the time in the election was Tim Walz from Minneapolis or Minnesota. Mind your damn business. That's what he kept saying. He said it for a different reason, but he was the one who's saying it. Ocean Love said the woke people think they are the saviors for people of color when in reality they are the nastiest. I agree with that. Angelica said, isn't what Chelsea Handler did racist? It sounds racist to me. It does sound, in a way, if you want to frame it that way, yes. Two things. Number one, 50 Cent sat there and let her say it, because then he went out and made a joke about it. So he let it go. He didn't get mad at it. And number two, I'm just not a fan of labeling things as racist anymore, simply because the word has been used so much, Angelica, that it's lost its value. So now when someone calls something racist, it doesn't even get people's attention. Jeffrey said, I think TikTok is shadow banning you. Had to type in your name now to find you. Not normal. Well, I hope not. TikTok don't shadow ban me. They already threatened to ban me completely. So hopefully they don't shadow ban me. But thanks for letting me know, Jeffrey. Client said, definitely a CRT moment. Ruthie said, just like Biden saying, if you don't vote for him. Yes, exactly. So a couple of you pointed that out. Jeffrey, thank you for the ice cream cone. Fab said, if Chelsea thinks that way, then why is she dating 50 Cent? She was supposed to be dating a white guy. Well, I think Chelsea Handler likes black guys. At least that's what I've heard. I don't know her. At least that's what I've heard. And y'all know what they say. When you see a white girl with a black guy, you just assume she likes black guys. There's one of them. So he probably ain't the first, and he probably won't be the last. AJ said, after these messages, funny on the low. All right, thank you. Jeffrey, thank you. Yes, please tap the screen. We're at 56,000 today, folks. Robert said, thanks for taking off your mic. Well, this mic is actually going to this camera. This over here is not this mic. Mills Tech, thank you for the follow. David said, first live I don't feel like I'm wasting my time on. Well, I'm glad you're here. Come back tomorrow. I do these lives every Monday through Friday. AJ said, I love the lives because it'd be some critical POVs being discussed. Well, good. And I appreciate the engagement. Serena said, I'm on chapter 3 of Work on Your Game. It's Oliva. But I'm glad you're on chapter 3 of Work on Your Game. You got the Audible, right? You were here yesterday, said you got the audio version. Fab said, there should be no affirmative action or DEI, but we know why. Correct. I agree. Oh, motivating. Yes. Fab said, I wonder why African countries where it's predominantly black, if there's DEI or affirmative action. I highly doubt it. I don't live in Africa, but I highly doubt it. AJ said, I read the terms and conditions once in my life for jokes and never again. Yeah, that's a lot of reading. They're written by lawyers. Ocean said, this is incredible. Such a fresh and accurate viewpoint and perspective. Love this. Thank you. David said, where are you from? I am born and raised in Philadelphia, PA, but I live in South Florida, Miami, Florida, or anywhere in South Florida. Anywhere, Palm Beach, Broward, or Dade County, that's where you'll find me. AJ said, makes you unethical due to integrity. Insider trading is easy. Just turn a blind eye. Well, again, if you get away with it, you probably do it too. You can make money. David said, people need to start using ChatGPT to learn. Every time I don't know something, I ChatGPT it. Me too. I will ask a question just to make sure I'm clear, because there are some things I think I got the right idea, but I'll ask ChatGPT and find out that I could either be a little bit more clear or I actually had the wrong idea. So I thought, for example, earlier today, insider trading I thought people in Congress were exempt from insider trading laws. I heard people say that, and I heard many people say it and assert it. So I thought that was the case because they never get arrested for insider trading. But then today we found out that technically there is a law to stop them from doing it, but they do it anyway. So that is what led to our philosophical discussion we had earlier, is that technically it is illegal to insider trade even in the government, but they still do it and nobody enforces the law. So again, if I was in Congress, would I insider trade knowing that I could get away with it? Yes, I would insider trade. I'll be doing the same thing. Me and Marjorie Taylor Greene be sitting at Starbucks, insider trading and laughing about it. All right, while the rest of you peasants couldn't do it. That's what I would be doing. Me and Marjorie Taylor Greene and Jasmine Crockett and who's the other one? And Bernie, AOC. We all be sitting around insider trading and laughing about it and posting on Instagram that we're doing it, and y'all not allowed to. And nobody's going to do anything about it. So, hey, Fab says, so if you broke the law, even if you weren't caught, you still broke the law. Okay. That's one way of looking at it. My way of looking at it is if you didn't get caught, you didn't break the law. Or that you did, but so what? Actually, that's the way I would say it. Yes, I broke the law, but so nobody caught me. Amber said, you break the law, it doesn't get caught. It doesn't change what you did and the consequences will ensue. Well, it depends on what law you broke. That's what I would say about that one. What law did you break? Fab said, observation doesn't get meaning. It only verifies existence. I agree with that. That's correct. I do agree with that. Now, the meaning, though, can come from the person. If you can justify in your own mind what you did, then you can make it okay. And this is what human beings do all the time. It's called rationalization. I mean, you watch a TV show like The Sopranos. Tony Soprano was doing a whole bunch of things that were not good, but he would justify in his own mind what he was doing, and then he would keep doing it. Dre Baldwin, basketball star to political analyst. I don't know if I give myself that title. Political analyst. Anne Marie, thanks for the share. Carlos said, I don't see a school with fish, but that doesn't mean they don't exist. Okay. Kirkland said, does physics outweigh logic? That's the philosophical question. That's what we're asking here. We don't know. I don't think there's a right answer to the question. That's what makes it an interesting discussion, because there's no right answer. Zwan Dani said, if a deaf person was there, it doesn't make a sound. According to physics, yes, because the tree falling produces sound waves. So even if you don't actually hear it, there is a sound, even though you didn't register it in your ear. So what was the other word they said? There's another word there. We were looking at two different definitions, perceptual definitions. So the physical definition is the vibration transmitted through an elastic medium. So if a tree falls, there is a vibration, there is a sound. But the perceptual definition is I didn't hear it, so therefore there was no sound. So it's kind of like if I'm talking to somebody on Zoom and I put them on mute and I can see their mouth moving, are they talking? Technically, yes. But can I hear them? No. So do I know what they said? No. But can I see they're talking? Yes. So I don't know. Somebody should write a book about this. It won't be me. O-Dog said physics is logic. Yes, it is. It depends on how you want to look at it, though. That's the thing. David said the sound definitely happened and produced sound waves. Yes, that is the physical definition. What you said is correct. Physically. Carla said the truth doesn't care about your facts. Yes, that's a good one. Indiana Homegirl said logically sound absolutely happened. There shouldn't be a second definition. Maybe I'm too logical. Well, Indiana Homegirls, the thing is there's more than one definition of sound. There's a physical definition, meaning the waves, the vibration. And then there's a perceptual definition, meaning the sensation that you hear in your ear. So logically, you are correct. And it depends on which definition. Let me look it up in a dictionary to see where they actually, because I want to see the first definition, because my way of looking at it is the first definition of a word is the most common definition. So let's see what it is. So definition of sound, according to Merriam-Webster, is a particular auditory impression. That sounds more like the perceptual definition. Then it says the sensation perceived by the sense of hearing. That's another perceptual definition. Then the third one is mechanical radiant energy that is transmitted by longitudinal pressure waves in a material medium, such as air, and is the objective cause of hearing. That's the physical definition. This gets tricky. Who knew this is where we were going to go today? Now, let's see if we can go. Let me go to the Oxford Dictionary. And let's look up sound. Oxford Dictionary. No, that's Walmart selling the Oxford Dictionary. Oxford Dictionary. All right, here it is. The OED. So this is the definitive record of the English language. So, all right, dun. Let's see what they say. All right, this is going to be the official word is going to come down to the Oxford Dictionary. They say, all right, so the noun of sound. Here it is. Y'all ready? That's the drum roll. There are 25 definitions of the word sound in the Oxford English Dictionary. See, this is why it's crazy. It's 25 different definitions. They say, where's the fucking definition? They're giving you all this stuff and they're not even giving you the definition. They're giving you all these things. Frequency, pronunciation. What the hell is this? So I'm looking at the Oxford Dictionary. They give you so many things. They don't even give you the definition, etymology, meaning and use, pronunciation. Let's see, meaning and use. They ask you you got to log in to even get the definition. So I'm not doing it. So, but it starts with, I'll tell you what it starts with. The sensation produced in the organs of hearing is what it starts with. That sounds like, I can't read the whole definition. That sounds like the perceptual definition, but this is what ChatGPT says they got from the Oxford Dictionary. It's two definitions, but the first one is the physical and the second one is perceptual. So I would say the judges say the physical definition has to be the winning definition, which is vibrations transmitted through an elastic medium like air, which can be perceived by the sense of hearing, but doesn't say it must be perceived by the sense of hearing. Therefore, I would have to say, logically, the physical definition wins. So if a tree falls in the forest and no one's there to hear it, doesn't make a sound, yes. That's what I would say. Now, before today, I would probably say no, because I was thinking of the perceptual definition. But based on my own logical frame, I would have to be true to my own logical frame and go with the first definition. So there we have it, everyone. We solved the problem. Yes, it makes a sound. Rahek said, you broke the law. You're just not facing consequences. The law exists either way. That is correct. Okay, I agree with that. Again, so if I'm running at 4 a.m. and I stop and piss next to a tree, That is public urination. I broke the law. Now I don't face any consequences, so I'm a criminal because I broke the law. But I'm never going to get caught. So again, it doesn't matter that I'm a criminal. That's what I'm asking. David said because they're all playing the same game up there, so it would just hurt everyone. Yes, exactly. That's the reason why insider trading doesn't get prosecuted, because who's going to do the prosecution? Nana Cat said, rules for thee, not for me. Yes, this is one of the reasons why people work in politics. So if I ever got into politics, it would not be because I think I'm going to solve the country's problems or I'm going to help the everyday person out. If I get into politics, it's because I want access to stuff that I couldn't access otherwise, such as insider trading. And now that I'm announcing this, I probably shouldn't run for politics. Hanso said, what about a person who can't hear? Well, based on the definition we just clarified, it's still sound. Robert said, why would Marjorie report her trade ASAP? Real story stopped the drop. Well, she reported it 3 days later. She traded on it Thursday and Friday. She reported on Monday. So she already did what she needed to do. And she might be, what's the word? Like honestly, like honest lying. So you put honest graph, Google that. So you probably that's exactly what you're talking about. So let me see what that is. I never heard of an honest graft. But let's see. Honest graft. What does that mean? ChatGPT says, I use ChatGPT like 9 times out of 10 these days instead of using Google. O-Dog says, it's not that deep. Failure for an individual to perceive as a deficiency on their part. Their deficiency does not make it a rule of thumb. Okay, fair enough. Fair enough. So the term comes from George Washington Plunkett, a politician in the early 20th century. He coined honest graft to distinguish legal but questionable political profit from outright corruption. Okay, so this is a new one. See, this is the reason why I take comments, because I may learn something. So the honest graft, coming from Robert Reviews over on TikTok, says a legal but questionable political profit from outright corruption. In other words, I see my opportunities and I took them. So it means using insider knowledge to buy land in advance, then sell it later at a profit legally because you know where a park is going to be built. It's not bribery, extortion, or theft. It's capitalizing on access, not breaking the law. The key difference is illegal means bribes, fraud, and theft. The honest graft means you're legal, but you're ethically murky. Use a privileged position to make money, such as Congress members trading stocks in industries they regulate. Yes, that is an honest graft. Real estate developers who know where infrastructure is going to go. Lobbyists who, quote unquote, consult and get contracts from contacts they help get elected. Yes, honest graft. This is a good term. So I'm glad you shared this with me, Robert. That is exactly what it is. What politicians do is honest grafting. And if I got into politics, I would be partaking. But I'm not a politician, so I'm not honest grafting. All right, so if I graft, then I'm going to get arrested. Angelica said, I think you're still breaking the law even if you don't get caught. Well, yes, based on how we figured out the tree falling in the forest, yes, I am breaking the law. My question is, does it matter? That's what I'm asking. I'm not asking if I broke the law. I'm just asking, does it matter? Marky said, if she lost money, is it still insider trading? Yes, but it probably wouldn't get as much attention. If she's not making money on it, then people will probably make fun of her. Like, how you got access to inside information and still losing money? You dumb. You must be stupid. So that's what I think. Indiana said, if you stole an item and don't get caught, you still broke the law. Yeah, I think all of you are right. Michael Arado says, so impressive with your common sense. Thank you. Well, I'm getting some good ideas from the audience as well. Fab said, I agree. If you follow the religion does not change laws, ethics, etc. can change. That's correct. Religion was made by man is unethical. The spiritual integrity is great, though. Yes, that's the issue. The issue with religion that anyone could logically raise is that religion is based on a story that people have chosen to believe. Doesn't mean they're wrong to believe it, and it doesn't mean you're wrong to not believe it, but that means that it is open to questioning. And the bottom line in life in general just comes down to what people choose to believe. That's what everything comes down to. What do you choose to believe? And choosing to believe something does not make you wrong. As a matter of fact, I believe that choosing to believe something gives you what's the word I'm looking for here? It gives you some conviction, something to stand on. And the problem is a lot of people don't know what they believe. They don't have anything to stand on. And this is how you get chaos, when people don't believe anything. If you don't believe anything, then you'll fall for anything. So I don't care what you believe. You believe in Judaism, you believe in Islam, you believe in Christianity, you believe in whatever you believe in something. All right, stand on something. I'm not saying religiously. I'm saying just principles. Have some principles. I think most people don't have any principles. And that's where we get trouble. If everybody had principles, then even if they didn't agree on their principles, but everybody had principles, then we would have less chaos. Nat Real Sweetness says, you're a great speaker. I look forward to your program every morning. Thank you. Michael said, no moral fiber. Yes, correct. Jen Mara said, Daisy Dukes were the days. LOL. Yeah, no, now Daisy Dukes is like conservative now. Lack of morals and values, anything goes. Jenny Buchanan. Yes, exactly. That's where we're at. That's where we are at. AJ said, how do you feel about the use of shame in society? Well, it depends. Some people are not open to shame. Like, you can't shame Donald Trump. Like, he's not a guy he's not susceptible to shaming. So you can try to shame him, but it doesn't work. And there are some people who are very susceptible to shaming. If you just put something on them, they will take it very harshly. But it depends on the person. So you can try it on somebody, but if it fails, it doesn't work. People have been trying to shame Donald Trump for 10 years. It hasn't worked. Fab said the inventor of spandex needs to receive a Nobel Prize. Hiding your bigotry behind standards is BS. Well, the thing is, who admits to being a bigot? Most people don't. Val sent the rose. Thank you for the rose. I learned so much from watching your lives. Thank you for talking about these things. You're welcome. Jenny, thank you for the share. Ocean said, thanks for your live. This is great. Thank you. Spandex, Joyous Freedom says, spandex is one of the reasons for infertility. Interesting. They say that about, what's the thing? The jacuzzi. Because I used to get in the jacuzzi all the time before I had a child. And my wife was like, yo, you get in the jacuzzi every day might be the reason why we ain't having a kid. Because you keep cooking your swimmers. But you hurt my son. So she was wrong. You can start investing with $1. Yes, you can. Stocks are a long-term investment. Yes, exactly. Sweet Rob, I don't know what I said that you were asking me to repeat. Where am I? AJ said, what do you think identity is? Someone else tells you who. That's a very deep philosophical question. I don't know if I have the mental capacity to think about that one right now. Nana said, we have accounts for all 11 grandchildren. Yes, good idea. Good idea. Dally said, 529 account for education. Robinhood is most user beginner friendly. Okay. Robinhood is good. Fab said VOO, VGT, QQQ, AIQ, MOAT, SPHD. Add these to your portfolio. Fab, I think you're giving them too many things. And beneficiary Carla told us 90 minutes live. Yes. And someone you can trust with the will. Yes. So a couple of you said that. Fab said beneficiaries and trusts are okay. Best thing you can have is a whole life insurance on your family. All right, there you go. Little guy said they would say it anyway because they envious. Lahek said DEI is insulting and says you can't do it without help. Well, that's how some people frame it, but other people frame it very differently from that. So I'll be careful who you say that to. Little guy said his whole cabinet is DEI. Well, his whole cabinet is subjective because you get to pick your cabinet. They weren't elected. They were subjective. O-Dog says the strength of the law is the authority to convict. If that authority isn't executed, then there's no disincentive to breaking the law. That is correct. O-Dog said, that said, a lawful person doesn't need a law. Unlawful people are supposed to be threatened by the law. There's no threat where there's no sword. That is also correct. So if the law is not being enforced, then you're going to get people breaking the law recklessly. And that's what we get sometimes. And if standards are not enforced, you get people breaking the standards recklessly. And that's where we get. Amber, thank you for the gifts. David said, what did you do before writing? Well, my background, when I got out of college, I became a professional athlete. I played basketball overseas, meaning outside of the USA, for almost a decade. At the same time, I started putting videos on YouTube for basketball players, and I became an entrepreneur officially by selling training programs to basketball players. My first programs were $4.99 a piece. From there, I started talking about mindset, and that's when I started to build an audience of people who were not athletes. That was around 2010. I stopped playing basketball in 2015, and that's when I started helping entrepreneurs. I've been doing that ever since. So I've done professional speaking, still sell training programs. I've been writing books kind of along the way of all these things. And these days, the main thing we focus on is our university, which is our coaching, consulting, and speaking and training wing. So that's where I do trainings for sales teams. I do professional speaking, keynotes, coaching, consulting, etc. That's our main focus these days. AJ said, masculine, there's been a study on feminine minds and masculine minds. Yeah, you might be going a little bit too deep for me right now, AJ. I'm an hour, almost 2 hours. I'm 2 hours into this and my stomach is growling. I think I need simple questions. Your question's not a bad one, but I can't go that deep into that one right now. James said, I just downloaded Robinhood. Now all I need is money. That's funny. So Cosmically Plural says, the government ensures a well-dedicated, equitable outcome versus poor planning, i.e. sweeping actions. Well, do they? Do they ensure that? I don't think they ensure it. I think I think the Democrats are trying to do that, but I don't think they're going to succeed. That's the problem. Kamala wanted a higher corporate tax rate and higher fees on corporations buybacks. Well, here's the thing. Kamala is a Democrat. She just wanted what the Democrats wanted. Kamala was basically saying whatever the Democrats are telling her, hey, this is what we got to do, and she did it. So that's why I wasn't a fan. I don't want anything that requires the government to have more power over my life. I don't want that. Even if it means that I'm allegedly going to get a benefit for it. David said the tariffs are to negotiate. If we got one country to drop tariffs, we're better than we were. Yes, that's what Donald Trump does. And a lot of people don't understand that. That's why they get all reactive. Even if they do understand it, they get reactive anyway because it draws attention. Styled by Terry said, you take the words right out of my mouth. Well, great. I don't know what I said, but I'm glad I did. Patsy Barrow said, I like your logical thinking. Most people lack this ability. That is very true. How old am I? I'm 43 years of age. I was born in 1982. February 3rd, 1982 is my birthday. So technically, as of today, I'm 43 years and what is that? February, March, April, 43 years and 2 months and a few days. Andrew P. said, I tried to explain the 2 minute, 2 hour, 2 day person to my friend. He wasn't trying to hear it. Don't try to explain it to him. Your mistake was trying to explain it to him in the first place. I get your intention, but no, don't do that. Code Red said, which of your books would you recommend as a first read? It would kind of depend on what you do for a living, but I would say my book, The Third Day. See that book right up there? The Third Day. The decision that separates the pros from the amateurs. That is our number one seller right now, The Third Day. Might be our number one. I don't know if it's number one of all time because other books have been out longer, but this one, number one, is all about how you show up every day and give your best effort. It's called The Third Day. You can get it at thirddaybook.com. Just spell out the title of the book. Third Day and then the word book.com. We'll give you the book for free. Just cover the shipping. Thirddaybook.com. LA Hack said, banned for what? I reported someone saying we should be censored. Well, TikTok has their own rules. Let's just put it that way. I've been suspended on TikTok 8 times in the last 8 months. So take that for what it's worth. Don't join the dark side, Dre. LOL. What dark side? David said, ChatGPT wrote me an ebook and a cover page to advertise the book and selling it on Etsy. Yeah, ChatGPT can do that. It can write a whole book for you. Andrew said, you brought up the 2 minute. What book can I reference for that? I don't know if I wrote about that in detail in any one of my books, but I will in the future. I don't think I have it in any one of my books right now, but one of my future books will mention it. I'm glad you brought it up, though. So Rahek says, sound is real. Only real of humans here. That's a very egotistical approach. You're saying that is or the opposite? AJ said, if a tree falls on the ground, no microphone is there, it doesn't make a sound. Yeah, we addressed that very deeply here today, AJ. I think you came in late. Can we get to 70K? Yes, we did it. Thank you, Carla. Ed said, off topic, what's the difference between understanding someone's mentality and how they think and being able to predict behavior and reading someone's mind? What's the difference? Understanding someone's mentality. Well, you only know someone's mentality by looking at their actions, right? And how they think. Well, you can't understand how another person thinks unless they tell you what they're thinking, or you listen to their words enough to assume that you know. And then being able to predict behavior and reading someone's mind, well, there's a lot of differences. That would be a longer conversation here, Ed. One is that just because someone tells you they're thinking something does not mean their actions will reflect what they claim that they're thinking. How often has someone told you that they need to do ABC and they keep telling you need to do ABC, but then every time you see them, they never did it? So it's hard to tell. You can never predict the person's behavior. You can try to predict, but sometimes you're going to end up wrong. That's the problem. I think we made the bottom of the comments. Unbelievable. I made it. Erica said, everyone make sure if you send a heart or gifts, you go back and click on claim, please. Yes, I don't even know what that means, but whatever Erica said, make sure you do that. We're at 73,000 likes. Mark said, have you started a new book yet? Yes, well, I just finished my last book. Not finished it, but I just released my last book last Friday called The Sales Discipline System. I put this out the same day that Trump destroyed the market, right? According to what everybody says. So you can get this at salesdisciplinebook.com. This link is in my profile on TikTok right now. So if you go on my link and profile, there's a link there for Sales Discipline Book. You click on that link, it'll take you to get this book. The book is free. I give a lot of my books away for free. We just ask you to cover the shipping, and then you can get the book. The website, Davis, is thirddaybook.com. Thirddaybook.com. I'm going to go to the website right now on my phone. Thirddaybook.com. It'll look something like this. We got a split test running, so you might not see the same title as what I got right here. Thirddaybook.com. See that URL up there at the top? Thirddaybook.com. The book's free. Just cover the shipping. Thirddaybook.com. So anybody wants that book, thirddaybook.com is where you get the book. If you want this book, it's salesdisciplinebook.com. And you'll notice that a lot of our landing pages look exactly the same. So the book that I just released, this one right here, salesdisciplinebook.com. See how it's laid out the exact same way? salesdisciplinebook.com. So we got systems and processes over here that we know what works. salesdisciplinebook.com. That's my book on sales. The good news is if you go get this book inside that funnel, we're going to offer you more books. I've written 41 books. So I never, ever sell you just one book. I will offer you one book and you can just take one book, but I'm going to offer you a bunch of books. So if you go through that funnel and say yes to every offer we make you, you'll probably have 10 books on the way instead of just one. And again, who reads just one book? So that's where you can get the book. ThirdDayBook.com, SalesDisciplineBook.com. Michelle Steele, good morning to you. Marky, I appreciate you. So we made it to the bottom of the comments. I don't always make it to the bottom of the comments because there's too many of them, and I am hungry. It is 10:15 a.m. Eastern. To remind all of you, those of you who don't know, I do these live streams Monday through Friday, 8 a.m. Eastern. So today is Thursday when I'm recording this. I will be back tomorrow. Tomorrow's tentative topic is we might talk about grifters. You know this word grifter? Everybody's calling everybody a grifter nowadays when they disagree with them. We might talk about grifters tomorrow. Or maybe we'll talk about if a tree falls in the forest and no one's there to hear it, doesn't make a sound. But I think we settled that debate here today. So tomorrow we might talk about grifters, or we might talk about something happening in current events. We'll see whatever happens today. Maybe something happens that Trump bumps this off the docket. But I got a few other scheduled topics coming up. The replay to this live stream, if you like this one, the replay is on my YouTube channel. The link to my YouTube is also on my profile on TikTok. Make sure you follow me also on Instagram. The link to my Instagram is also on TikTok. So there's 3 links in there. One to my latest book, one to YouTube, and one to Instagram. So make sure you click those links and you can follow me in those places. If you ever see me not live here on a Monday through Friday, that means either I'm not alive anymore, knock on wood, that doesn't happen. 2, TikTok banned me completely. Hopefully that doesn't happen. Or 3, I'm very, very physically sick. Usually I don't get sick. So I'm usually live Monday through Friday. And if you don't see those happen and TikTok ban me, just make sure you go to my YouTube or to my Instagram and you will see me. I'll still be live. Okay. What else? I think that's it. I think I addressed everything. What software do I use for multicasting the lives? Fab, there's no software trick. I got 3 different devices right now. So TikTok, I'm on a tablet. Instagram, I'm on a smartphone. And then YouTube, LinkedIn, Facebook, Rumble, and X, I'm on a laptop computer. So there's no way to do it with one piece of software because none of them can do it all. So I'd use 3 different devices to do all the streaming. So Dali said, do I recommend Rich Dad, Poor Dad? Yes. Have I read Think and Grow Rich? Of course I have. I read it probably 10 times. I also recommend Napoleon Hill's book called The Law of Success, which is longer than Think and Grow Rich. And everything that's in Think and Grow Rich is in The Law of Success. So what Napoleon did is he wrote The Law of Success, and then he took a piece out of that book and created another book, and that book became Think and Grow Rich. And that's the book that blew his name up. Fab said, what software are you using? Oh, I already answered that one. David says, sorry, but what do you say? How to get 10 books? Go to the link that I already gave you, Davis, and it's a sales funnel. You know how sales funnels work? You buy one thing, and then before you finish the checkout, we offer you something else, and then we offer you something else. That's called a sales funnel. All of our sales are done through sales funnels. So if you go to ThirdDayBook.com, I'll pull that website up again so all of you can see it. When you go to this site to get this book, we're going to offer you 1 book. We're just going to ask that you cover the shipping. On the next page, we're going to offer you 4 more books. On the next page, we're going to offer you 4 more books. You don't have to buy them. You can just say yes or no, but we're going to offer them to you. So that's how you can end up going through this funnel and ending up with like 15 books. And we will ship all of them to your doorstep in a box in a nice package with some goodies inside of it. So again, ThirdDayBook.com. This is my most popular current book. This is not my latest book. This is my most popular book. Good thing about most of my content, folks, is that unlike these live streams, most of my material is evergreen. So it doesn't matter when you get it or read it. It is always applicable. Now, these live streams are about current events, but everything else that I do is evergreen material. So Keenum said, enjoy listening to you. Was cooking breakfast and listening. Good stuff. Shout out to everybody cooking breakfast. Amber, appreciate you as usual. All right, Carla and Amber and all of our Erica and Nikki was in here earlier, and Courtney. Thank you to all of my moderators who keep things organized on here. Appreciate you all. And I will see you all tomorrow, 8 a.m. Eastern for another live topic to be determined. Everybody have a great Thursday. Work on your game. We out of here. Buy some stocks.